Cuyahoga County Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026 will please come to order. The time is about 5 minutes after 1 o'clock, and the clerk will please call the roll.
Good afternoon, everyone. As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Also, as a reminder to all meeting attendees seeking parking validation for today's meeting, please be sure to scan the QR code located on the back table near the chamber's entrance to claim your discount. If you do not already have a Metropolis account, you will need your license plate number to set up an account in advance of receiving your discount. Please be sure to complete this prior to the end of today's meeting, as the QR code will be removed at the conclusion of the meeting. Calling the roll, Mr. Hauser. Here. Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
Mr. Castleberry.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Schlepper.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Turner.
Present.
Council President Miller.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Has anybody signed in?
Lou.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, county right now has a very efficient way to communicate with some of the residents who have electronic methods to communicate. I'm talking about things like emails. So now we know today downtown, that big building has to be closed due to power and water issues. Now look at the 2227 Payne Avenue. Construction still on. But the purpose of that construction, the so-called renovation, is only to make the place less congregated. Will the power system be improved? Not necessarily true. Will the plumbing issue to be resolved? Definitely not. Due to this particular construction, right now the people working there actually trying to kick people out because official beds will be less. So they do not want the people to be all there. However, let's not forget, Cuyahoga County, we have a right to shelter, to help the people who really in need. Lots of these people right now there are actually even seniors. And think about their situation. If they have been set up to lose their finance, to lose their housing, to become unhoused, where else can they go? Even right now, the only shelter they can go to will not let them stay. They will be forced downsize. That means their personal properties will be thrown out no matter what. This already has happened to me years ago and continuously, even for the incident back in January. On the other hand, the people staying in that big building downtown today being closed, they may have a new campus for them. Safer, cleaner, with better food, even decent health care, supposedly. But the people just getting financial hardships because they are being old or being disabled or having other issues, they do not get the same help. Is that really the way county wants to take care of everybody in the county? I hope not. Please think about this whole issue again. We have to try to find fundings to improve all these things. Not just to wait till the last minute to resolve the issue, which is accumulation from the past, we don't know how many decades. Thank you very much.
I want the record to reflect that Councilmember Simon is in attendance. Marcia Goldberg.
My name is Marcia Goldberg, speaking today for the League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland on the proposed charter amendments before this committee. First, and above all, the League adamantly opposes the resolution calling for the election rather than the appointment of the sheriff. If this resolution is placed on the fall ballot, and we hope it is not, the League will work vigorously against it. The League supports the resolution requiring council to pass an ordinance establishing campaign finance reform. Whether you do this now or wait until the 2027 charter review is up to you, but there will not be regular council elections again until 2028. Either way, we support this resolution, understanding that the language of the relevant ordinance will receive your full attention once the amendment is passed. As for the other two amendments submitted by council members, those concerning taxes and the removal of the executive's appointees, we urge council to postpone action until next year's charter review. We don't understand the motivation for rushing these amendments onto the ballot. We do, however, understand the county executive's motivation for offering his two amendments. The League is considering them and not taking positions on either at this time. Regarding the amendment giving the executive sole power to suspend, discipline, or remove the sheriff, the League would like to see this amendment include checks on undue executive power to remove the sheriff, such as a requirement for just cause and due process. Regarding the executive's amendment, clarifying the division of powers and duties between the prosecutor and the law director, we want this to include checks and accountability, as well as logic and clarity on whose responsibility is whose. Our charter already has an abundance of safeguards against corruption and abuse, and Home Rule allows the county to draw lines of authority between the two offices. Thank you for your deliberations on the many policy issues involved in these charter amendment proposals, and a representative of the League will be here at 5. Thank you.
Jack Hall.
Members of the council, thank you for having me and also other members of the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association as your elected sheriffs from the counties surrounding Cuyahoga and Northeast Ohio. I'm Sheriff Jack Hall, the Lorain County Sheriff, your neighbor to the west. The issue that we are here to talk about today is the support of having the amendment put into place onto the charter for the sheriff of Cuyahoga County to be an elected position as the other 87 sheriffs in the state of Ohio. Reason for being elected is, I will probably be bringing a historical perspective to this, is that when the state was founded in 1802, the Ohio Constitution established 2 county offices, the office of the coroner and the office of the sheriff. County commissioners were not even considered to be elected officials until 2 years later, until 1804. The reason for this is, if any of you have seen the Broadway play Hamilton, there was much disdain in the country at that time in regards to federal powers versus state powers. And in fact, when the Ohio Constitution was written, the people who wrote it said that they wanted the power as closely to the county government as possible. This is why you see no state police. This is why you see no state attorney. The power lies within the prosecutor and the sheriff as the chief legal officer and the chief law enforcement officer, respectively, in all 88 counties in the state of Ohio. In addition to that, there was a very cruel and unusual territorial governor at the time before Ohio became a state. Matter of fact, the land that we're sitting in right now was actually part of originally Washington County, which Marietta is the seat of that county right now. Extended all the way to where the edge of the country extended, which was to the east bank of the flats, the Cuyahoga River. So therefore, when the state of Ohio was created, the people of the state of Ohio said they wish that power to remain as close to the people as possible. The reason why a sheriff was elected is because the territorial governor at the time had a sheriff that was abusing their power, and so therefore the people said it must be an elected position. So therefore, we ask, as your sheriffs, to pass a resolution to provide election of the sheriff again in Cuyahoga County. Thank you very much.
Sheriff Eric Weisburn.
Good afternoon, President, Council, members, and citizens. My name is Eric Weisburn, Sheriff of Stark County. I'm here today to express my support for a resolution that would return the office of Sheriff to an elected position in Cuyahoga County. The office of Sheriff is one of the oldest and most important public safety offices in our country. Sheriffs serve not only as law enforcement leaders, but also as direct representatives of the communities that they protect. Because of that unique role, I believe the citizens should have the right to choose who serves as their sheriff. Public safety decisions impact every family, every neighborhood, and every business. The people who live, work, and raise their families in Cuyahoga County deserve a direct voice in selecting the individual who will lead their sheriff's office. Elections provide transparency, accountability, and an opportunity for citizens to evaluate a candidate's experience, vision, and leadership. This resolution is not about any one person. It is about trusting the people of Cuyahoga County to make their own decision regarding who they want representing their community. I respectfully encourage the council to support this resolution and give the citizens of Cuyahoga County the opportunity to choose their sheriff through an election process. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Sheriff Bill Nemi.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. My name is Sheriff Bill Nemi, Asheville County Sheriff. I'm here to support the election of the sheriff in Cuyahoga County for what my colleagues have already stated to you. I can't really add much more to that. I strongly believe that it should be up to the residents of the county to choose their sheriff, to be independent and not take party lines as far as making decisions on political agendas and stuff. They should be held separate of that. Sheriffs should be able to make their decisions on public safety, and I think that's better well served by being an elected position by the people of the community. Thank you.
Will Tarter.
Good afternoon, Council President Miller, members of council, the County Executive's Office. I'm Will Tarter, and I serve as the Director of the Office of Civic Engagement at Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry. I was scheduled to be here anyway just to listen to the charter review amendments that are here before you, but I also want to elevate a very important issue, and that's the issue of SNAP benefits. As many people might know, as a result of the Big Beautiful Bill, there's a lot of issues that are, it's a lot of changes that are coming to the SNAP program and impacting us here locally at Cuyahoga County, as you have heard presentations in previous committees. And so there's a need to get the word out about these changes, and we appreciate the county and the county executive creating the hunger response team to help engage the Cuyahoga County residents. There also is a need to elevate opportunities to connect people with food and resources, and we're grateful for the support of the Greater Cleveland Food Bank and all the great work that they do. And then finally, there's a need for organizations out in the community, if they want to help people to maintain their benefits, how can they connect with the county and help to support people during a time of transition. And so to that end, tomorrow evening, Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry will be hosting a very important webinar at 5:30 p.m. We're partnering with Cuyahoga County, and we're grateful for the county's support. We're also partnering with the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, with Noble, the NEOC, as well as and of course LMM. So 5 organizations are getting together to put on this webinar. It is a free webinar. We will be posting it on YouTube as well. And so I put a flyer in front of all the council members. We'll also be emailing you. We ask that you please share this with your constituents. Feel free to reference it in your future connections with the county, with the residents. And again, thank you for supporting the residents as this navigating a very perilous time. So thank you very much.
Kurt Schneider.
Good afternoon, Council. I have a big mouth, so I probably won't need this microphone too much, but I do appreciate everything that you do for
Mr.
Cuyahoga
Schneider?
County.
Sheriff
Yeah.
Schneider, if
Yes.
you could just state your name for the record.
Kurt Schneider, I'm the Ashland County Sheriff. And I do want to tell you that this resolution that you'll be considering is a very important one. It represents the fundamental principles of what government is, the separation of power and the check and balances that are put into that by the people who elect all of you and who have elected the 87 sheriffs that represent the other 87 counties. You know, the office of sheriff is a fundamentally important and probably the most important office that you will have in county government. We're tasked with providing good public safety unchecked by the public. You know, they are the ones who vote for us and ensure that they get the right person for the job. And we get a grade card every 4 years, just as all of you do. So it's nothing new to the fundamental principles of government. It is not a corrupt organization or an office or a position of by any sort. And I think it belongs in the people's hands. They are the ones who determine how their government should work, and this is no different. So I thank you. I strongly encourage you to consider passing this resolution to put the office of sheriff back into people's hands where it belongs. I think you know the importance of that. I don't think I have to speak anymore. So you should never give the sheriff a microphone, so I'll step away and yield my time to other folks here. Thank you.
Sheriff Scott Hildebrand.
Good afternoon. Scott Hildenbrand. I'm the sheriff in Geauga County. I spent 19 years in the city of Chardon as a police officer and then another 23 years at the sheriff's office. The office of sheriff is very different and unique in law enforcement compared to police chiefs and constables. The sheriff is pretty much in touch with the residents of the county. The elected sheriff does not take orders from a mayor or a manager, that the sheriffs does not take, that have their own non-law enforcement opinion on things how things should be handled. The sheriff is not worried that he or she will be replaced because they're upset one person. All sheriffs across the county are in that office to do the right thing. Ohio sheriffs are responsible for the jail, civil paper services, security in the courts, registration of sex offenders, concealed carry licensing, and other unfunded mandates that the legislators decide to impose on them. The sheriff must still request a budget from elected commissioners and/or councils, but must also justify the budget each year. Obviously, the founders of Ohio law decided that it was best to have an elected sheriff as chief law enforcement officer for each county, and in the far majority of the counties in Ohio have this process and has worked well for more than 200 years. Thank you.
Sheriff Calvin Graham.
Thank you, Commissioners, for your time. I'm Sheriff Calvin Graham. I'm with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. I'm here in support of Sheriff Patel and the right to have sheriffs elected. I'm not going to take a lot of time up. My colleagues have done that. So please consider making it an elected position again. Thank you.
That concludes the public comment portion for today's meeting.
Thank you very much for everybody who presented. Next, under matters referred to committee, Resolution 2026-0080.
Council President, let the record reflect that Council Member Conwell is in attendance.
Okay, great, thank you.
Resolution 2026-0080, amending the 2026-2027 biennial operating budget for 2026 by providing for additional fiscal appropriations, appropriation transfers, and cash transfers, and amending Resolution Number 2025-0350, dated December 9th, 2025.
Thank you very much. This has been a matter of much discussion at the last budget hearing and two previous committees of the whole. I would like to make a motion to substitute, and the motion funds 8 probation officers for $320,000. Additional probation officers will help our youth get back on the right track. My only concerns were about budget sustainability and adding staff here while losing staff elsewhere. But recognizing the importance that council members have attributed to this effort, I offer this motion in the spirit of compromise. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the substitute? Councilman Sweeney? None. Okay,
This means no.
okay.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I have a couple comments. First, I want to clarify statements from the president at the last meeting indicating outwardly to the public that the juvenile court was over budget by millions. And I think from that day till now, you've learned that that was not correct, right? I just want for the record to clear that up. I don't want that standing out there that the reason, we weren't able to fund this was because of the court's budget practices.
So I appreciate the correction. The gap is smaller than talked about at the last meeting. There remains a gap, and it's under discussion.
Okay, so I appreciate that because it was a large number
Right.
that later we all learned was not correct.
It's a smaller number.
It's a
yes.
smaller number, and I appreciate this amendment. We've been working very hard on this, and I think the majority of council was supporting this, and at I guess, compromise is certainly better than, moving forward without collegiality. So I appreciate that point. And I would support this for that reason, but I really hope that council continues to support the probation officers because it's really, I don't think we should forget, this committee was formed by council that recommended these POs. It wasn't the court that I kept hearing. It was actually our council. It was a committee of dedicated people from all walks. So I think this is great, and I appreciate the compromise, and I hope council supports it.
Any further discussion? Councilman Sweeney.
Thank you. The reason I said no, I thought we're just accepting the motion, and then we're going to have discussion. So it's a discussion point now. I want to thank you for your efforts in regards to working this thing through. We all know the probation officers are very important. And as my colleague stated, I wasn't here, but it was something that was started. And when I was talking to the juvenile court folks, they mentioned that we're just trying to follow what we were told to do. But during the discussion on your point through the chair, they were talking about the ability of how the juvenile court has raised money through reclaimed funds or something. And through the chair, we have somebody from the prosecutor or the juvenile court's office. She'll be very receptive of presenting a very short understanding of that particular function of the court.
Good afternoon. I'm Bridget Gibbons. I'm Deputy Court Administrator at Juvenile Court. Thank you for this opportunity and for continuing to have this discussion. I think it's a vital component to maintaining community safety. To Councilwoman Simon, thank you for bringing up the point about the committee that was put together. We have worked really hard in the last few years to increase the dollars that we bring into the court. If you're aware of the reclaim formula, it's state funding from the Ohio Department of Youth Services. There are a number of funding streams within that large grant. It makes up nearly 10% of the court's overall budget, and we use it for everything that we can to keep kids out of detention centers, out of residential placement, and out of the Ohio Department of Youth Services. The purpose of the funding stream is to reduce the number of kids who are committed to ODYS. And the ways that we do that is improve programming that we have within the community. So by reducing the caseload size of our probation officers, our officers will have a much more individualized mentor relationship with young people where they're putting the necessary services in place to reduce the likelihood the kids are going to recidivate. By having less kids on a caseload size, our probation officers will know them well, will service them well, and will be able to respond quickly if there's an escalation of behavior that jeopardizes community safety. So for every day that we do not place a young person in the in ODYS that they're committed, results in increased dollars for our community. So Cuyahoga County gets more dollars when we're reducing ODYS commitments. Probation officers with smaller caseload sizes will be able to individualize every referral, service the entire family, so there will be less likelihood that they're going to end up in a violation of court order, less youth put into the detention center, less youth placed in residential placements, and less youth sent to DYS, which will mean we'll have more variable reclaim coming into our county. We had to shift because when we had higher caseload sizes with our POs in previous years, we had to shift many of those positions onto HHS and general fund. By increasing the variable and reducing our probation caseload sizes, we believe this will help us to be able to have more flexible funding in the future through variable reclaim, resulting in potentially moving staff back on as a sustainable measure for this funding. Any questions regarding reclaim funding?
I'm just very happy that you came up and explained it to me more thoroughly, and it makes some sense that the actions that we're going to take today will give us, through your comments today, will give us a possible funding stream to keep them going and even grow.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Ms. Gibbons?
Thank you.
Councilman Gallagher?
Thank you. And
need
thank you, Bridget. Mr. President, I appreciate your work on this. This was unfortunately contentious, and it has been stated, and it's true, the court didn't come to us. We went to the court. This was an initiative of the council. There were 2 retired judges on that committee, a retired Cleveland police officer who dealt with inner city youth his entire career, Bridget. And we had, I believe, a retired guardian ad litem, so a lady that was in the system and knows it well. They worked for over a year. They took it seriously. They gave us a list of 5 things that the court would need. And I think it's really important that there are groups of folks that don't like the courts, don't like the law. They believe these kids shouldn't go to jail, and we're trying to keep them out of jail. And this was a project. How do we accomplish that? Well, we went through the process. This is what they came up with, and it became contentious from there. I don't understand that, but it is what it is. We're here now, and we've come to a compromise, not only for the 8 this year, but money for the 8 next year. And then at that point in time, when the budget rolls around again, the council, the court, and the administration can struggle, and we'll have some ideas, and if indeed this did work. And when a problem is presented to the council, and we're brought into it, and we present what we hope to be a solution, we come to a conclusion that there is a solution that we at least want to try, we should try it. We're obligated to do that. And I'm proud of that committee. It was through my committee in safety. I took a risk. I honestly didn't want to do it. I didn't think there was a way to do it. I shouldn't say I didn't want to do it. But there were people on both sides. The court of all exposed themselves to what they do, how they do it, where they spend their money, where they don't spend their money. And they came back to this. And we all got an education as to how difficult the juvenile court is. Of all the courts, and I know they're all difficult, juvenile court is the one where angels go to serve. So when we have an opportunity to help these kids, we should do it. And I really appreciate, Mr. President, your efforts in this to help us come to a conclusion and to move forward and to see what the court can do. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah,
Councilman
Council.
Hauser.
Just very quickly, I just want to publicly thank Councilmember Gallagher and Simon for their advocacy on this issue. I also want to thank Council President Miller for his compromise. I'm not sure how the final vote would have went, but I do think this is a good compromise, and I think this is definitely better than nothing, so I'm in support of this substitution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President.
Yes.
So I thank you, Council President, and obviously I was not there for the last vote, but the probation officers are certainly an institution that I support. I was in support, so I am very glad that this body was able to come to a compromise that the majority of us can support. So I look forward to the opportunity to, again, cast a vote and in support.
Any further discussion?
Ms.
Ms.
President.
Conwell.
I'm just thankful to the council president and to Councilwoman Simon and Councilman Gallagher, as well as the co-sponsors that signed on. As I stated at our last meeting, it's a sad day in this county when we have to make decisions when it comes to children, what other side of the coin they're on, that we cannot assist them. So I'm very proud and thank you, Council President, for your leadership on this and listening to your colleagues, out in the open publicly and behind the scenes in making this compromise.
Councilman Castleberry.
Thank you, Council President. Again, I want to thank my colleagues that pushed for this. As Councilman Gallagher said, maybe it shouldn't have been so contentious, but I do want to commend you for your leadership, seeing the direction this council wanted to go, finding a way to get it done. We're halfway there. I think it's a good start, and I appreciate that, and I thank my colleagues for their work on this.
Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would have again voted for the 15, but I'm glad there was a compromise and we're going to at least get 8. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Turner.
Thank you, through the chair. I want to thank colleagues Simon and Gallagher for their passion around the advocacy for our kids. Also want to thank Council President Miller and Vice President Conwell for listening to our colleagues, going back, and trying to find a way to make this work. We will continue to have tough financial decisions ahead of this body. But I do want to just publicly thank you for listening to your colleagues, going back, double checking, and figuring it out. Thank you.
Ms. Simon.
One last thing, I'd be remiss not to mention Councilwoman Cheryl Stevens. If, for all who were here, it was Cheryl's idea coming out of the Safety Committee to do this, and Councilman Gallagher picked up her lead and took it. And so I just want to shout out to Cheryl Stevens for, she was the originator idea behind it. And I think it's really important that we continue to look at the findings of the committee. This is just a triage priority, but there were more than 5. I think there are a lot more recommendations.
So on that point, I'm going to mention that in the meetings last week with the court regarding the budget, we learned that they have spent almost all of the money that was in the budget for residential services and are going to spend considerably more, and it'll be a number pretty close to the additional $1 million that the Juvenile Court Advisory Committee recommended be added into residential services. And so that's a second aspect in addition to the start we're making on the probation officers, 2 of their most important recommendations, at least getting started. So that's progress. Any further discussion? All those in favor of accepting the substitute, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The substitute is accepted. The reason why we have 3 readings is so that the public can become informed about legislation that's about to be acted upon. But in this case, we have had plenty of discussion, and people are very well aware of it. So I think a motion for referral on second reading suspension would be appropriate if there is a motion.
I'd like
So
to
moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to refer Resolution 2026-0080 to the full council at tonight's meeting for second reading suspension. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The resolution is referred.
Good job.
The next item on our agenda is the consideration of charter amendments. And before we begin, I would like to offer some suggestions about structure so that council people and the public know what to expect. After today, there will be 3 more council meeting days before summer recess, July 7th, July 21, and August 4. We will have committee of the whole meetings on the charter amendments today, July 7th, and July 21st. I recommend that any amendment that the sponsor would like to move forward be voted on at the committee on July 21st. Voting on all the amendments on the same day will enable council to make decisions about priorities and number of amendments to be submitted, and to deal with pairs of amendments that are either in conflict or that can work together but must be harmonized. Amendments that are referred to the full council on July 21st could see final action on that same day under second reading suspension, or could be voted upon in council on August the 4th. This might depend on whether a member or two might be unable to attend on either July 24th or August 4th, and it might depend on if any of the amendments need technical corrections. At today's meeting, we hope to have a full presentation by sponsors on both what their amendments do and the reasons why they should be approved, followed by questions and debate from council to move closer to being able to make decisions. The last amendment that we will hear tonight regarding appointments will be walked onto the agenda for introduction at tonight's council meeting. The proposed amendments might not end up in the same form as introduced. Either the sponsor or another member might propose changes for consideration. I suggest that anyone who desires changes to any of the amendments should present them for consideration at the next Committee of the Whole meeting on July the 7th. This isn't a hard and fast rule. I know there will be exceptions, but the goal is to get the amendments as close as possible to the version that we will be voting upon at the July 21st meeting, so that council members will have some time to evaluate them and make informed decisions. So does anyone have any questions or comments about the suggested process? Hearing none, I will now turn the gavel over to the Operations Committee Chair, Councilman Schlepper, to conduct the meeting on the charter amendments.
Very good. Thank you, Council President, for those words to guide us through our discussion this evening. We did a beautiful time last time. I was really happy to support those efforts at our last meeting. So as Council President has mentioned, please remember this is an opportunity for thoughtful discussion. We will not be voting on all of these items this evening. Ultimately, we really just want to move things forward in the most transparent and productive way that we can. So I'm very excited to facilitate this process tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to our first presenters. Madam Clerk, if you would read item 167.
Resolution number 2026-0167, providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 1, Section 1.02 of the County Charter to provide that no tax levied, extended, or renewed by the county shall go into effect until such question has been submitted to and approved by the electors of the county, and to provide for the manner of submitting such question to the electors.
Is there someone to speak to this issue? Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to think that this suggestion to the voters, to the council to put towards the voters, came out of necessity. During our debates and discussions regarding the funding of the new jail justice center, which go back to the start was 2013. We really got involved in 2015, 2016. As we sit here today, we don't have a new jail. So we're working on many, many years of discussing a new jail, implementing a new jail, building a new jail, where do we put the jail and all that. The council back in early 23, came to the conclusion that we were going to have to figure this thing out. And the suggestion at that time, while never public, but the discussion seemed to go around, we were going to extend this 0.25% sales tax for 30 years. Nothing hard and fast. 6 of my colleagues had come to the conclusion that they were going to do that. And in a way, we're taking a major political hit to do something like that without a vote of the people. But our backs were against the wall, so we acted, or so we thought. The committee that was put together, unfortunately, started playing politics and shenanigans, and I want this and I want that, and next thing you know, we've got nothing. Enter the ugly world of politics, and the I'm not pointing a specific finger at anybody, but the 2 candidates thought it was a good political volleyball to bat back and forth. I told both of them, do not do this. You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea the implications. You have no idea the time frame. You have no idea what you're going to cost the taxpayers. At that time, when we came to that conclusion to move forward with our funding proposal at 30 years on the extended 0.25% that was originally 20 years to build a convention center, medical mart, and ended up being the hotel, that paid for all of that. So we knew 30 years was going to pay for a jail justice center. In 23, a jail was $700 million. In 2023, Justice Center fix and or rebuild, brand new Justice Center was $700 million. It's $1.4 billion that we could substantiate and pay for and have some money left over so we could turn around and send that back to the folks. Because if the purpose is to build a jail, if the purpose is to build a Justice Center, if the purpose is to build a sheriff's headquarters, that's the purpose of the funds. And that's not what happened. Because in 2016, the council at the time, we had excess money. We did a great job with the convention center. We did a great job with the medical mart. So we had excess dollars, which we used in part to build the hotel, which in part gave us one of the conventions that we were guaranteed if we built the building. In essence, the convention paid for the building. Brilliant, just brilliant. You don't usually hear that in political circles, but it really worked out well for us and exposed Cleveland to the world, and it was a very good, positive thing. But by putting those excess funds into the general fund, I think we sent a message to the public: we got your money, and we're not done spending your money. We should have sent it back, is what we should have done, but we didn't, and that's fine. So in 2016, we started putting about 20 to 25 million a year into the general fund from that fund. When the extension for the 0.25% came up, I wasn't going to vote for it, so I didn't even participate in the discussions. It really wasn't somewhere I wanted to go. And the reason I didn't want to go there is because they didn't do it for 30 years. Council and the administration signed off on 40 years. After a promise to the people that we'd put it on the ballot. In the world in which I live and the people that I represent, if I had said that to them and gone back on that promise, I wouldn't be sitting here today. They pay attention. At least the voters in my district pay attention. And they held my feet to the fire. But it is what it is. The council decided to do that. But I couldn't understand the 40 years. 40 years, baked into the 40 years, they added 10 years, which is an extra $1 billion. We really didn't need that extra $1 billion. So I asked on this floor, what's the $1 billion for? Nobody seemed to have an answer. But that's going in the general fund. Council saw that and put guardrails on that extended 0.25%, meaning you're only allowed to spend that money on a jail, Justice Center, and Sheriff's Headquarters. By removing the guardrails in the now infamous good, better, best discussion with the bonding people, in the bonding experts, his 25-year career, I believe it was 25 years, never made a suggestion like that to an elected body or anybody to take the guardrails off, to put the 25 million back into the general fund to balance out our spending. Who does that? Who does that? I'm a taxpayer too. I'm offended. Who does that? That just sends a signal to the public you're not watching the dollars the way you should be. And that should never have happened. And it happened, and it should never happen again, which is why this legislation should be put on the record in front of the people. And if you put this in front of the people that pay the taxes, it's going to win. It's going to win 70-30, because you got the Elvis people out there. And I think you all know who they call it the Elvis line. 30% of Americans think Elvis is alive. 30% of the people will not vote for anything. They'll go the other way. So if you're an elected official and you get 70%, you're doing a good job. So what I would suggest is that we put this on the ballot to never again walk down that dark corridor of telling the public one thing, doing another, adding $1 billion, putting it in the general fund, and removing the guardrails that were intended for the purpose of the money. So the money is meant for jail, justice center, sheriff's office, headquarters. And that's what it should have been. And it wasn't. And it wasn't. And the cats got fat and want to continue that $25 million a year for 40 years to balance out the budget. We can balance out the budget. I today could find $25 million to cut. But we don't do it. I don't know why, but we don't do it. And I'm not saying the projects weren't necessary and weren't important. They're definitely necessary. They're definitely important. And this, what we did as a group, whether I participate or not, this is the council that I'm on. And I think this is a stain on us. And I think we have to remove that stain with the public. And by telling the public, we're no longer going to just throw a tax on you without your vote, without your direction, without your authority and okay. And we're not going to hide it in a general fund, which, as I've heard many other times, is nobody can tell you in 2016 to this day what we spent the $20 million a year on, $25 million a year on the excess money. Should have gone back to the public. Should have gone back to the public. It's their money. All of your money. And that's where it should have gone, but it didn't. And then we extended for an extra 10 years. This can never happen again. We spent, when we started this government in, I believe, 2009, was it? 2011, sorry, time flies. We had the public in Cuyahoga County had it with the corruption and everything else. And whether or not, you know, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, because I think a lot of people got tied up in that unnecessarily, but they didn't trust us. And over a period of time, I think we built trust with the people of Cuyahoga County to the point where they almost forgot we existed, which is the ideal thing to have if you're an elected official. Please pretend I'm not here. That means I'm doing a good job. They're paying attention now. They're not happy. School levies are going down in flames. People don't have any money. Now we've got a problem with the funding for the facilities that we own that we can't pay for. And we're going to have to struggle and find ways to do that. And a suggestion had been made that we tack a 0.15% sales tax increase on top of the 0.25% increase, on top of the extended 0.25% increase, which is at 40 years, which is ridiculous. When you're messing with sales tax, you're messing with the richest people in town and the poorest people in town and everybody in the middle. And if you buy a pack of gum and you're a 5-year-old kid in East Cleveland and you're a kid in Westlake, Ohio, buying that same pack of gum, you're equally going to get screwed by your government raising your taxes to pay for their inability to do their jobs. We can do our job. I want you to trust us, and I'm talking to the electorate. We can do it, and with this and with your cooperation, we will do it. But what has happened, well, it should never happen again. The initial 0.25% shouldn't have happened, but it did. The second 0.25% shouldn't have happened, but it did. The discussion on the 30-year 0.25% that the council was going to do shouldn't have happened, but we were going to do it because we had to do it. We were obligated. We had a federal court breathing down our neck. We had people dying into jail, and that's where people die, We get the poorest of the poor and the sickest of the sick in our jails. And every one of these sheriffs knows that. And I bet money every one of these sheriffs has had deaths in their jail. And it's not because they don't do their job correctly. It's because we have to take care of these people. And those costs escalate all the time. And we struggle with that, but we do it because it's important to do. So I think, I don't know the argument against doing this. So I'm just going to sit back and see what people have to say. And if you don't want to do it, I'm fine with that. I would prefer to do it. I think we need it. I think this is the ultimate guardrail that a council can't be buffaloed into removing. If you're going to say it's for, if you're going to tax people for a jail, justice center, sheriff's headquarters, that's what it should be for. And if you're going to add on for general fund bailouts to the tune of $1 billion, then be honest and say it. Be honest and say it. Oh, guess what? If you went to the ballot, you wouldn't get 12 votes. So we need to rein in what we do here tax-wise, and this is why I submitted this legislation, and I leave it to your conscience to whether support or not support this.
Thank you, Councilman. Let's open it up for discussion. Anybody have any comments or questions?
I'll go first.
Councilman.
Yeah. One, thank you, colleagues, for those comments. But probably a slightly different perspective. I was a math science kid in school. Wasn't big on social studies, but I do remember this class in 7th grade about a small town that wanted to build a dam. Nobody wanted to build it. You know, everybody, I don't need the water, I don't need the runoff, I don't care about electricity or whatever. But they taxed them. The whole point of taxes was there's got to be a community benefit, even if everybody doesn't like it. So I don't remember what grade I got in class, but I remember that story. Point was, you pay taxes for the community benefit, and not everybody's going to like it. And we can go to the people. We have the power to go to the people, and we should, and we do when we have to. But then there's times when we as elected officials have to, as the representative, elected directly by the people, have to make a decision whether we should do something or not do something. So to strip ourselves of that power, to have the people make the decision, or we, their elected representatives, make a decision when we have spent time in all of the nuanced differences and details, I think it's appropriate that we have both powers. We've seen those powers abused as you go higher in other levels of government. Here at the local level, I get a campaign contribution. I'm still do what my conscience tells me to do on behalf of the people. As you get in higher office, the challenge is greater. At the state level, there's greater challenge, and certainly at the federal level, you cannot run for office, if you don't personally have millions of dollars. You need all these institutions with their special interests. So your decisions are a lot more diluted at the federal level than sitting here at the county council level. Each one of us up here can raise the money necessary to run our own campaign, and we can make decisions as our conscience guides us on behalf of the people. So again, I say that to say our power is to do I personally don't think we need to limit our power to make these decisions when we delve in 100% into the issues and fully immerse ourselves in them so that we can make the best decision on behalf of us. And each one of us, whether we vote yes or no on something, we're making the best decision for the people that we represent. So I don't fundamentally see a problem with us exercising our power to put something on the ballot or send it to the people to vote. And there are appropriate times for each one. And I don't see a need to strip ourselves of that power. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Other comments? Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I learned the hard way about trying to do the right thing at the time. And then with my legislation, which thanks to my colleagues that supported it, put the guardrails on the money. So the money was there, as Councilman Gallagher just talked about. And then those guardrails got stripped. So I won't go any farther with that, but I will support Councilman Gallagher's amendment.
Other questions or comments? Councilwoman.
I just make a comment. I fundamentally see both sides of what Gallagher is saying, but I agree with Councilman Jones about not limiting our ability, and also future council members that will come after us. This would kind of strip them from making those decisions during maybe tough budget cycles or whatever the case may be. So although I agree with Councilman Gallagher how some of these issues have come about and made him even wanting to think about putting guardrails, I have to disagree at this time that we should do that.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Last call.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just wanted to express that I appreciate the concerns raised by my colleagues, and I certainly understand the importance of maintaining public trust. I believe that we're all trying to do what's right by the people of Cuyahoga County. I find myself in agreement with Councilman Jones and Conwell. The voters have already expressed and exercised their voices when they elected us. They entrusted us with the responsibility to study these issues, immerse ourselves in the details, weigh competing interests, and make difficult decisions. That is representative government. There are certainly times when matters should be placed before the voters, and I have supported that, and I will continue to support that when appropriate. But I do not believe that we should voluntarily strip ourselves of the authority that the people intentionally delegated to us through this charter. If every difficult decision is simply sent back to the ballot, then I think we have to ask ourselves, what is the role of those whom the people elected to govern? Accountability is already built into our system. If we make poor decisions, the voters have every right to replace us. But leadership sometimes requires making difficult decisions. We saw one being made here today, not avoiding them. I believe our responsibility is to exercise sound judgment, to govern responsibly, and to remain accountable to the people who sent us here. So for those reasons, I'm not inclined to support this amendment.
All right. Very good. Councilman Gallagher.
Appreciate the comments, and again, the opinion of those is the opinion of those. But I think when the people find out, and they don't know yet, nobody knows that they got stuffed with 0.25% for 40 years. They don't know. They're learning. They're learning. We had a jail in 2023, $700 million. Now $1 billion. Oh, was that me that predicted that in 2023? Yeah, it was. Justice Center, $700 million. If you build a new one, it's $1 billion. So I might argue that when the people do find out that delay, incompetence, add what you will in there, costs them $240 today. It's going to be higher. Mark that down as my next prediction. $240 million extra dollars over the past 3.5 years to build a jail that's not built. To move dirt, we haven't moved. Put up fencing, we're just putting up. So delay costs you money. And I've been saying that since 2015. And here we are. So I would suggest collectively we have not done the best for the people, that we have cost them dearly in dollars and cents. And I have never, none of us have ever run away from a ballot box. Matter of fact, we run to it. And I think the public, when educated, and they'll be educated, I guarantee you that, will also be running to the ballot box. Like I said, I can't think of many people that would vote against this. And as far as stripping us of our abilities, well, I think we just showed the public what we can do. Let us continue on, and in 10 years, we'll cost you another $240 million. Won't tell you about it, make you learn about it, and stick them again. We got big bills coming our way. We got big decisions to make. This is a small decision. This is empowering the people. I'm a child of the 70s, actually 60s, 70s. Power to the people.
Thank you, Councilman Gallagher. Final comments or questions before we move on? Okay, thank you so much for that conversation. Madam Clerk, if you will read item 168.
Resolution number 2026-0168, providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 3, Section 3.09 of the County Charter to require the County Council to establish campaign laws by ordinance including, without limitation, campaign finance regulation, donor disclosure requirements, and enforcement.
All right. Someone to speak to the issue.
Yes, you do. This is Martin Sweeney, a Cuyahoga County Councilperson.
Welcome, Councilman.
Thank you very much. Before I start, I just want to give a huge thank you and a shout out to Laura and Michael from our staff. They sat with me, I got slides, and they helped me be prepared today. Put the first slide up if you want. There it is. Campaign Finance Amendment. Why do I want to do it? 3 points. Past charter reviews have looked at it, recommended it, and there was no action taken. Second, my thought is keeping money out of the election process is just a good practice. And lastly, there's an unfair advantage to the folks that can raise a lot of money in compared to the folks that are not be able to do that when you're running for election. So with that being said, we'll put the first, as you can see, there's no county limits at this moment anywhere in the state of Ohio. But there are county limits for the state, and it's $16,615.67. My entire career, I've had campaign contribution limits. So it's just familiar to me, and I think it's a good practice. Now we're going to the city councils. They have self-mandated council limits for the council and the mayor. And other municipalities like Akron, Columbus, and Cincinnati all have the same. I'm just giving examples of things that are out there for us to consider. Here are states that have county limits. And you can see there's 6 up there, so there's precedent for this. This is the county one. These are the charter cities that have campaign finance. Another example of what could be done and what is currently happening now. Basically, I think it's a good idea. It's been brought up before and recommended before by other charters or charter review committees, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Open it up for discussion. Councilman Gallagher.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Because of our size, our district sizes, so I would assume, I'm assuming you would prefer to go the route of like a state representative because we're similar in size as who we represent?
That would be my preference, but the legislation before us just gives the opportunity for the council to decide what the limits are.
Okay.
As we move forward, if this goes and we get the privilege of doing that, I will most likely be advocating for that because it's the same size as a state rep district.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? Councilwoman Simon.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I don't have questions of the sponsor, but I do have my own comments about this. The 3 reasons given by the councilman for asserting this charter amendment proposal, 1 is to keep, that the Charter Review Commission in the past have recommended something and the council didn't take action. So now you think this is a good way to go. I have to say affirmatively that the council bodies that were represented at that time all took into consideration the history of the county elections when the new government was formed. The first county executive election consisted of Ed Fitzgerald and Matt Dolan. And what's important to understand is the limits upon which Councilman Sweeney seeks to impose cannot in any way, shape, or fashion limit a self-funder. They cannot limit that because the Supreme Court stated in a decision that that's a violation of the First Amendment. So anybody with tons of money can walk into this county and run for an executive position, and if they're self-funding, there's no way to compete if we as a council body or this county government imposes limits on the little guy. So the little guy can only raise $500, but I'm going to call out Matt Dolan, who was limitless in the amount of money he could spend and did spend on his campaign. So that creates a huge inequality. And what it does, it really hurts the little guy or woman running for office in this county because there's no limit on the millionaires. Now, take into account the second one, Ken Lancy came in, self-funded millionaire. So that puts us in a huge disadvantage. And why we would want to do that except for concept, I think. I don't have an opposition to limits at a higher level, but at this level, what it does, it creates a huge imbalance, huge. If we want to keep money out of politics, then we have to wait for the Supreme Court of this country to change its view that self-funding can continue as a First Amendment right. Until that happens, it's not fair. It creates a very unequal ground to run people who want to run who don't have money. So it does the opposite of what Councilman Sweeney proposes, and I think they're lofty ideas, but instead it undermines those lofty ideas to huge levels. And more importantly, or secondarily of importance, is that the state representatives, and I've not been there, but what I've witnessed is just every day is lobby, lobby, lobby. Every kind of organization, money in politics is rich at the state. My experience at the county, I think I've been approached by maybe 2 lobbyists with money and it never came to anything. So this is a different type of, I would say, dynamic here at the county versus what happens at the state. And obviously, as we get higher up into the levels of government, that changes quite significantly. So I would say if somebody really wants to do this, I think the place to go is to go back to the Charter Review Commission, which is next year, and have them talk about it. But I don't want my colleagues ever to forget the Supreme Court's decision and how that's going to render everybody in this county who has an aspiration or a dream to run for office who's not a millionaire, that they'll be absolutely crippled. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I appreciate our conversation, and you gave me a different perspective to think about. And that's what we talked about, Ronald. I just heard a little bit more fuller understanding of her thought process. I understand it. I have a little tweak on the unfairness of the folks that don't have much money. So, but I'm looking forward to a fuller dialogue on that. Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Castleberry.
Thank you, Chairman Schlepper. I think Ms. Simon may have partially answered my question, but I was going to ask you, Councilman Sweeney, I appreciate your presentation, and I was wondering, so no other counties do this, and I was wondering if you knew the reason why they haven't implemented these finance reforms, or why they don't have them in place.
As I've been doing my research and trying to answer that question myself, I haven't really found why all 88 counties for the ones that were on the state don't have campaign limits. And I have to figure that one out as well as this moves forward.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Chair.
Yeah, Councilman Jones.
One, I appreciate Councilwoman Simon's comments. I agree with them. It is counterintuitive. You think, you need to put a limit so those council people aren't running amok and all those things, but it is counterintuitive. And she said it well, so I don't have to repeat it. But we're local government, city, county, we're not the state, we are a local government. And we are able to run a campaign, get elected, and vote our conscience on behalf of the people. And we don't have the influences of lobbyists, as Councilwoman Simon said. I've had the lobbyists come in, I've had them come in from New York, from other parts of the country. I listen to them, give them their due, but I make the decision that I think the people that elected me and what's the best decision on behalf of all the residents of Cuyahoga County. And I can do that with a free conscience and not influenced by anybody else's money, because I don't need it to get elected. You know, none of us do. The threshold of dollar amount we need to win an election is something that each one of us can attain. And again, we're not at the federal level where you need the help of all of these lobbyists who come in. When you get to higher levels, you get to state, federal, it's different. We have lobbyists might come in and talk to us. There are lobbyists who have classes at the state. You come into the state and you sit in some lobbyist class, and we got a few state level elected officials who know the reality of this. It's institutionally built in for them. It's not here. It's not here. So again, it's counterintuitive to think, oh, I better put a limit on them. But no, what you're really doing is helping those exact forces who could come in because we handcuffed ourselves and left them free to run amok, so to speak. So again, I certainly would not support it if it is decided to go to the Charter Review Committee. I certainly would count trust in them to see the light as well and make a solid decision.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. Councilman Sweeney.
Oh, no, I just answer any more questions.
Any other thoughts or comments? Councilman Hauser.
Through the chair, Councilman Sweeney, I definitely appreciate your advocacy on this important issue, but I don't think we should rush campaign finance reform. So I guess I'm asking if we can hold this, maybe even to Councilwoman Simon's point, for maybe charter review next year. I think that way we, as a council, will give us time to actually get this right in the future.
You know what? I appreciate everybody's comments, and I'll do that exactly. I just want to start the conversation on this to make it very, very focused when we start with the charter review. I truly believe that there should be campaign limits in some fashion. I didn't think it was going to pass here today, but I called the question, and I can't thank each and every one of my council colleagues for sharing their opinions on this. So I'm not going to move forward with this. I have the faith and confidence with this council. Everybody's going to be back except Your Honor, and I know your replacement's going to be focused on this as well. And we're going to look at it. And if it comes out as a recommendation, we'll consider voting for it. But my hope is to my colleagues, if we doesn't come out as a recommendation, we'll still have a discussion about it and see what happens. Would that be okay? Thank you. This one gets put over here.
Thank you, Councilman Sweeney.
Mr. Chair, yes, I won't be here either way. So I just
You'll be here in
wanna-
spirit. You told us that.
I'll probably be watching, but you know, the history speaks a lot, and you're losing one of the originals. So I hope that people who are still here, who saw what happened in those original, political campaigns for executive, really remember the history, because if it's not broken, there's nothing to fix here. But what broken was to have these self-funders come in, and I don't think we should come in and undo the protection that we've had from the beginning. So the history of the county new government's really important for everybody who's going to be here listening to the Charter Review Commission.
All right, very good. Thank you, Councilwoman. Other comments before we move forward? Okay, very good. Thank you, Councilman Sweeney. Madam Clerk, if you will read the next item.
Resolution number 2026-0169, providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 26 of the County Charter to provide that the sheriff be elected quadrennially, commencing at the 2028 countywide general election, and providing for the qualifications and powers and duties for the office of the sheriff.
Councilman Sweeney, take us away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, to my colleagues, I appreciate the opportunity to present for you. I just have to say thank you for the sheriffs for coming down. I appreciate that. I appreciate the Women's League of Voters coming down, and you heard two absolute polar opposite opinions passionately delivered. And that's the beauty of this opportunity, place something on the ballot, to have discussion. As my colleague, Chairman Gallagher, saying, people are waking up. And on this one, I know they're waking up. I hear it every time I'm outside. I ask the questions, going door to door. So I have a little presentation, if you would be so kind to go through three little sections of my presentation. Number one, what's it been like since we formed this government? I hope you can see it, it's in front of you. Sheriff 1, Bob Reed, great guy. At the end of the day, got frustrated and left. I happen to have a relationship with him. Frank Bova, an absolute wonderful man, hardworking, just elegant's the wrong word. It just, the word's not coming to me. But he also got frustrated and left. Clifford Pinckney, there was some heavy-duty headbutting going on there. And it wasn't a good situation. He's a friend of mine, and it didn't end the way I would have liked it for him. Brian Smith, he was appointed, and he wasn't even eligible by the county executive at the time. The next one, David Schilling, it's also my understanding that he wasn't eligible. We gave him more time to get eligible, and he never met those criteria, so he had to be replaced. And Joe Greiner, we all know Joe, just a true public servant. I call him the sacrificial lamb of trying to manage through. And then he was there, never given the opportunity to get it permanent, and he left. Christopher Viland, that was the first time I came on county council. It was my first Zoom. We were all there. It was COVID. And this sheriff was presenting. I asked this question. I was about the 11th person to ask a question. Who do you report to? And his answer was, I don't know. Bill Mason told me to report to him. And then we had a dialogue all over the place on the Zoom with all the boxes. And I went, wow, there's something messed up here in my own brain. And then we go to Steve Hamlet. He was intern. He retired. I don't remember him too much. And then here comes Joe Greiner again to save us. And true public servant, sacrificial lamb, and that's how it ended. And now we have our current sheriff, Harold Patel, who was appointed by this body. And at this current stage, there is some stress between the executive, the appointing authority, and our confirmation, and the sheriff. There's a current lawsuit going on. There's two employees having a lawsuit going on too. So the functionality is really not there. So, okay, we can move to the next one. Okay, the other counties, right? As the sheriffs have stated, all the other 87 counties have an elected sheriff. And what we have here is the only comparison that we have is Summit County, because we're the only two charter cities or charter counties. And in Summit County, they have an elected sheriff. And the elected sheriff is named Sheriff Candy with the K, Fothery. And you know what? We have the privilege of having her here. So she's going to come up and talk a little bit about the relationship of being elected sheriff in a county chartered county, so we can have the most intimate understanding of what's closest to us. Sheriff? Please.
First, thank you. My name is Candy Fothery. I am the elected sheriff in Summit County, Ohio. Summit County is a charter form of government. They were the first charter form of government in the state of Ohio, and that occurred, we elected to go that way in 1979, and then January 1st of 1980, we started that process. Since then, I can tell you that the sheriff has always been elected. I am the 39th sheriff elected to Summit County in the county's history, but I'm the 5th sheriff elected to Summit County as the sheriff. And we have never had a sheriff that has been arrested, indicted, or removed from office. I've been the sheriff now, this is my 6th year, so I'm partway through my 2nd term. I've been in law enforcement for 34 years. I was a police officer for 2 years before I went to work for the sheriff's office. I worked my way up through the ranks, working in the jail, patrol, court services, civil process, warrants, investigations, and finally administration. I was a captain when I ran for sheriff, and I love what I do. My relationship with the executive's office and the other elected office holders, the fiscal office, the judges, the prosecutor, the engineer, and the executive, it's a very good relationship. And the reason why it's such a good relationship, specifically for me, is because the fact that I spent all my time working with every one of them. In the courts, I was court security, in charge of court security, and so I got to know all the judges from way back. And having worked in patrol, of course, I'm dealing with the prosecutor, not just in the courts, but having been there and also in investigations. Working in civil process, I worked with our fiscal officer. I'm not sure if you have a fiscal officer, but ours is both the recorder and the treasurer. It's one person. And so I dealt with all of the foreclosures during the foreclosure crisis. I learned very rapidly the importance of how the sheriff interacts with every elected office in the county. So when I make a decision in our civil division, it can adversely impact our clerk of courts, and it can adversely impact our fiscal officer. The function of the sheriff is a really critical function. I think that the relationship that they have with all of the other elected officials is vital to their success. I sit on the board of directors, the executive board at the National Sheriff's Association, at the national level, as well as sitting on the board of directors for the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association. I love everything sheriff. I understand the difference between an appointed sheriff and an elected sheriff. And since I do love everything sheriff, I can tell you that our nation, the very first law enforcement officer in our nation was a sheriff. The only elected law enforcement officer in our nation is the sheriff. Your U.S. Marshal is appointed by your president. We already have seen a few DOJ in and out over the last couple of years, right? Our FBI, same thing. They're all appointed by somebody. Your police department, your police chiefs, they're appointed by mayors, trustees, or council members. The only law enforcement officer in the nation that the people pick is the sheriff. And our job is specifically to run the jail, attend to the court of common pleas, and most importantly, keep the peace in the county. And you can't do that when someone's directing you or hovering over you or questioning what you're doing, when you have a individual doing that. Your sheriff is the largest liability that you have in county government. Your sheriff is the only person in your county government that is genuinely responsible for human life. They're the only one that can take the freedom from a person all the way to taking their life. Think about that. Because you can, all of you sitting here, you make decisions about money and about processes and policies. But your sheriff makes life and death decisions. And quite honestly, I didn't realize that you'd gone through 10 sheriffs since you have been a charter. And I think that you need to ask yourselves why. Your citizens deserve a person as their sheriff that will do what your citizens want. You see, all my colleagues behind me, their counties, every single one of them, they're very different. The citizens in every single county are very different. The difference between a small community county, a county that has a smaller population that might be geared more towards farming, comparing that to what happens here in Cuyahoga County and what is down in Summit County, very, very different. What they expect from their sheriff and what that sheriff has to do is entirely different than what I do. I'm an executive. I have 500 employees. I run a jail. I support all the police chiefs in my community. My job is to help them, to be their cavalry. I make decisions about how my jail is run. I do the best that I can to follow the state laws. And talking about state laws, in the Ohio Revised Code, and that is what governs sheriffs in the state of Ohio, it mentions the sheriff. If you go into the Ohio Revised Code and you put in search sheriff, you will find that it tells the sheriff 700 different laws and times to tell us what we are supposed to do. 700 in the criminal code, and over 200 in the administrative code. That is significant, because if you Google what your responsibility is, or what the county executive's responsibility is, or if you do the clerk of courts, if you go into the Ohio Revised Code and just put in search any one of those, I guarantee you, you don't come back with over 900 directives. Your sheriff is a professional, and Sheriff Pertell is a professional. He knows what he's doing. He's the only one, really, in county government that truly knows how to run the jail, how to follow the state standards, what he needs to do to hold his people accountable, to help to improve the lives of the people that he is entrusted in their care, custody, and control. He also is probably the only one that knows all the laws related to uses of force and taking a person's freedom, all the way to, sadly, having to take a life. That's a huge responsibility, and you need to look at how many times have you had deaths in your jail, and why did they happen? And did you get sued, and how much did that cost? Having an old jail is difficult, and his jail is much older than mine. But I can tell you this, if you continue to keep your sheriff as an appointed position, you will simply continue to roll people in and out of that position, and they will not stay. And the problems and the challenges that you face today and have faced in the past will continue to occur. I believe that the people in the other 87 counties in Ohio understand the reason why the sheriff should be elected, because if they don't like the job that I'm doing in my charter county, they won't vote for me next time. But that didn't happen. I was voted in a second time, and I'm certain that I'll be voted in a third time. Consistency is important. Professionalism, accountability, they're all very, very important. And law enforcement is the one thing that keeps this nation free, because we are the only thing that stands between a civil and uncivil society, and that's your law enforcement. And again, the sheriff, the oldest law enforcement officer in the nation, and the only elected one. So you should ask yourselves why. And as I said earlier, I have an excellent relationship with all of the elected officials in our county, because you understand why we all have to work together in order to make our community safe and to do what's best for the people that are our neighbors. So I am open to any kind of questions that you have.
Start with Councilman. Go ahead.
Through the chair to the sheriff, appreciate you coming in today, and I think you gave us a lot of insight. My question is, in Summit County, how do you guys do it if your department goes over budget? One of my key concerns is our county budget, especially with our sheriff department. How do you guys handle it where you're at?
So I'm very fiscally responsible, and with the exception of overtime, I have not gone over a budget. And how we handle the budget is it is a collaboration between myself and the executive's office. We work together on a monthly basis. We look at exactly what we're doing and where we're at. We actually, it's a partnership. I stay within budget. The only challenge that I have is overtime. I will tell you that when I came into office, we had a large amount of our deputies that retired, and I went heavily into overtime, but we knew that. So it was not something that was a surprise to anybody. As far as the rest of my budget is concerned, we stay within budget because you work on it on a monthly basis. And it is as I said, it's a partnership with myself and the county fiscal office, county executive's office.
Just as a follow-up question, if I may, through the chair. So I know you're excellent, but like, what happens if you ever go over budget? If you guys have projected 50 million and you're at 70 million, like what's the next steps? What's the process? Like,
I don't know that we've ever done that. The reason why, I can't think of any sheriff that's done that.
No sheriff ever went over budget?
Well,
ever?
not like that, but.
For example?
Maybe a small amount, but certainly nothing big. I think that the reason why in the last 40 years that it works is because the fact that we talk monthly. I mean, like, I probably speak 2-3 times a week with our county executive's office. And my fiscal officers, the people that handle all my books, they are constantly there. They're part of every aspect of the money that is involved with the sheriff's office. So I handle the majority of the stuff, and it's my responsibility to stay within budget. If I have an issue or I suspect that I'm going to go over budget, I come back to county council and I have to explain exactly what it is the problem is, what it would cost or what it's going to look like if I'm going to go over budget, and what I need to do differently for the following year, okay? So for instance, I do my entire budget. I work with the county. This past year, the county gave me a certain amount of money that I needed to stay within. And I looked at it and I said, I have a problem. I believe that I need 6 more deputies to work in our courts because we have a high number of murders and we have a lot of gang activity, and we have those families that are coming to court and they're causing problems within the courts. So I need 6 more deputies. So I went to county council when I presented my budget, and I said, I need 6 deputies. This is the cost for the 6 deputies. So $720,000 is what I'm asking for my budget. We agreed that we would wait for 6 months and when I did that, I also explained all the numbers. So giving an explanation of this is what I want, this is why I need it, this is what it's going to cost, and answering the questions. So County Council asked me to wait until April of this year and see where my staffing levels were. My staffing levels were at 100%. I did not have any vacancies. I still needed the 6, and so they came back then and approved it. So my budget for this year has been increased. By the end of the year, believe it or not, I'm still going to be pretty much within budget, even with the addition of 6 more deputies of $720,000, because I looked at the whole organization and I changed it. So when you're given a budget, you have to stay within it. And if you simply can't because it's not large enough, you have to be able to articulate to council why. So council is who approves the money. The executive is the one that works with me to try to bring it together. But they don't approve my money. My council does, and I have 11.
Thank you, Sheriff. That's what I was asking. Thank you for being here today.
Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Fothery, that couldn't have been put any better at all. Your statement, your story. And I want to thank you for that. And the fact that we're on our 10th sheriff since 2009 is showing that this process isn't working. So I want to thank you for that in-depth presentation, and it kind of says the whole thing, tells the whole story. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Council President Miller and then Councilwoman Simon.
Sheriff Fothery, first I would like to thank you and all the sheriffs who came today. It's a lot to take time out of your day and come to another county outside your jurisdiction. So this is truly noted and appreciated. My question is just what your total amount of overtime expended in the sheriff's office was for last year.
I don't know. Without having the books in front of me, I couldn't give you that answer, quite honestly. But I can do that. I can get back to you.
Yes, please do. Thank you.
Councilwoman Simon.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Sheriff. The first question I have is, you indicated that you've not been significantly over budget in your tenure and because you're fiscally responsible. What if there's a sheriff, and I've seen examples of sheriffs who have gone beyond, not this sheriff who sits here today, but what happens if you have a sheriff that's not fiscally responsible? I mean, that's different. You're talking about you, but there's people who aren't you. And what would happen then if there were a change of how our sheriff is appointed or elected?
I don't get the money without council giving it to me. So you can't go over, you can't create a bill that you don't have the money to pay, if that makes sense. We go back every single month. So if it started looking as though a sheriff was outspending, everything that we do is examined pretty much on a monthly basis by our executive's office. And all funds, again, go through county council. So to
Sheriff,
go
I want to stop you, but that's what happens here now. Okay.
So-
No? Oh, I just want to talk about what happens here. It sounds like this is what you're describing. And listen, I'm not making a decision today, and, I'm just having a discussion. But our sheriff meets with the executive, was meeting regularly, and council had to approve or not approve the budget. And so I don't see what's different about what you're describing your processes versus what we're doing now. And I did hear, and maybe this is what you can touch upon, because you said if we don't change the charter to make this position elected, a sheriff won't stay. Maybe that's tangential to what you're thinking. But when I look at the process, I don't see any difference between the process of a budget, which was a question of my colleague, meeting with the executive regularly, coming up with a tangible budget, and having council approve or disapprove it. There's no difference in what we do and you do in that vein, correct?
That is, in that aspect, you're absolutely correct.
Okay, so that's not different. But it ends up with council, really, at the end of the day, and hopefully a working relationship with all three, parties. But when you spoke and said, if we don't change this, they won't stay, do you remember saying that?
Yes.
What's the basis upon which you state that?
Because when, I think your challenge is more than just money. Okay, it's not just the control as far as I'll give you the funds that you need to run the office. If you know that that it's $130,000 a year, or a person for a deputy out on the street, that is their total salary and benefits is $130,000, and you've got 100 deputies out on the street, then you know how much money that their salaries should be, correct? If you have 50 cars and you know what the each time that you have to change them out because of high mileage, that's all planned and pretty much plotted out. So as far as budgeting normal expenses, those things, in my opinion, they're normal processes of business. Going dramatically over budget, that would entail a sheriff to be purchasing things that were way outside of what would be approved. And we have checks and balances to be able to do that, right? Anything over $5,000 that I want to spend, it has to go to Board of Control, and they have to approve it. And it has to be within my budget. So that's, when I said I don't really go over budget, it's because we have all kinds of processes that we work through in order to do that. The challenges come in a different fashion. As a sheriff, the biggest arguments that I have with my county executive is, for instance, my medical or mental health providers and those contracts. And the fact that the Ohio Revised Code says that that's my responsibility, and the county executive, in my case, is able to go out to bid for those positions, but it has to be with my approval, because that's what the law says. The sheriff has the approval. My arguments with my county executive's office is who they would prefer as my medical and mental health provider compared to who I would prefer. If I'm not happy with that contract and that service, those are the challenges that I have, that I can go to them and we can sit down and discuss. I'm using this as an example. Your sheriff, being appointed, may not have the ability to put his foot down and say, I do not want this contractor. I do not believe that they will do the best for the men and women in my jail. I don't want them. I would prefer that we look at this person, this company, or this company. Your county executive at this point could simply tell him, no, we're going to use mine. And then that company that the executive picks is not providing the service that they should, and there's nothing that the sheriff can do about it. And then when a person dies in your jail because of inadequate mental health or medical care, it's your sheriff that's getting sued, and he's the one that's on TV, and he's the one that everybody points the fingers to, not the executive who made the decision. So it's some of the internal workings of the organization and the who accepts that responsibility. It's your sheriff. And if he's appointed, I know this, if you're going to put it on me and I'm appointed and I don't get a say in how it should be, why would I accept that responsibility? Why would I accept getting sued? Why would I do the job? I would walk away.
I appreciate that. And in our situation, I think the sheriff does have a say to some regard because we changed our charter a few years ago in 2019 that said the sheriff cannot be removed unless there's a vote of supermajority of council to do that. So that we thought would give the sheriff latitude. I can't speak to a particular contract, but broader than that, the ability to have a say and fight back, to fight back when he's hearing something from the executive that doesn't make sense to the sheriff. And there's always going to be that level of, challenge, I think. But we have that in our charter that if the sheriff stands up to the executive and can, based on that, where do you see the problem there? And maybe I should be speaking to the sheriff at some point more about that. But, okay. But do you have an opinion on that? Because we did change our charter to enable the sheriff to have that ability to stand up. Because what we saw with past sheriffs, or what I've seen from the beginning, is some sheriff are fearful of losing their job. I guess in this case, it might be a reappointment, perhaps. Maybe that's the answer. But do you have any insight about that? And then we'll move on.
I can't really, the way that I would say it at this point is obviously there's a challenge or your sheriff wouldn't be involved in a lawsuit. Changing your charter may have been an improvement. I still personally think that, you're elected, the people elected you. Your chief law enforcement officer of your county should be elected. It's what the people in the nation have done. And every single time, and many of the sheriffs that I've met that have been appointed, not just here, because I knew Cliff Pinckney very well. Sheriffs, not just here in Cuyahoga County, but across the nation, there are some that have been appointed. And many of them do not stay because they do have challenges with their council or their executive. But when they're appointed, many of them have problems, and a lot of them do not stay for very long. And I think that your sheriff needs to have, they've got to have more than 4 years. The first 4 years you're a sheriff, even having come from within the sheriff's office and having been a part of our budget and having worked in every area, it is a huge learning curve. And they've got to be able to have the confidence that what they're doing is the right way. And at the end of the 4 years, if the people don't like what they've done, then they vote for another sheriff. That's my personal opinion.
I appreciate that. And I would only push back that we had that Sheriff Arpaio in Maricopa County who was reelected. I think he was in office 24 years, and in my opinion, was not a picture of professionalism. And I won't, what brought us here to this charter amendment was corruption with the sheriff department, who he was violating nepotism, there was ethics violations, and the charter founders addressed that in making the sheriff appointed rather than elected. So there's two sides to this. Just because, you do it one way doesn't necessarily mean that's the best way. But we have a good discussion here, and I don't think anything's purely black and white in this discussion, so.
I would agree. It's absolutely not black and white.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Castleberry.
Thank you, Chairman Schlepper, and through the chair. Sheriff Fatherly, thank you for being here today. Appreciate your presentation and your service to your community. Can you confirm, since you're a charter form of government, are you the 5th sheriff?
I believe I'm the 5th sheriff.
So you have a good track record in the 46 years. You have 5 sheriffs?
Yeah, if, I may be wrong on when Troutman started. If Troutman is, I'm going from Sheriff Troutman to Sheriff Warren, to Sheriff Alexander, Sheriff Barry, and myself. I believe Troutman was in office when we became a charter.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'm going to test you a little bit just on and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm curious as far as some of your charter rules. Are there any sort of term limits or anything for the sheriff?
No, in the state of Ohio, we do not have term limits.
Okay, and through the chair, has there ever been a sheriff, to your knowledge, under this form of government that was not able to finish out their term?
In Summit County? No.
Correct, okay. So leading to that, like I said, I'm not trying to put you on the spot with all the charter, but I'm curious what the process would be if for some reason you couldn't finish out your term. Do we go to, what would happen under your form of government?
Okay, so if if something happened and for whatever reason, whether I was arrested, decided to retire early, or passed away.
Let's
okay?
call it, we hope you just decided to retire early.
There you go. But if something would happen and I would have to leave office, the county executive would appoint an interim sheriff for 30 days. Our delegation would then go forward. They would put out I happen to be a Democrat, so the Democrats would put out feelers, basically, and they would have anybody who wanted to run for sheriff. They would all go in front of the delegates, and then they would they'd present their case. The delegates would vote, and they would place the new sheriff in office. And then that sheriff would be required to run. They'd complete the rest of the term. They would be required to run for that office as to be elected by the people then.
Thank you. It's very similar to what would happen here, but I was just curious with that and with the sheriff's office if there was any difference. So appreciate your explanation.
The only time that did happen was when Sheriff Troutman left our office in 1993, maybe, to become the U.S. Marshal up here. And so when he left office, that's what we did. They appointed Dick Warren. He then ran in front of the delegates. He served out the remainder of just under 2 years of that term, ran for election, was elected for 1 term, and then when he ran for his second fully elected term, he lost to Sheriff Alexander.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate your explanation, answering the questions. Thank you for being here.
Councilman Gallagher.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Sheriff. Part of our problem, and I don't even know if it's a problem, but I don't know if there's anybody other than the sponsor and myself, and even our recollections, I don't think are set in stone, as to how the sheriff became not elected. From this loose committee where there were no minutes, there was nothing. There's nothing to go back to. The group that put this together, the charter together, poof, gone. And as you can see, none of them are really here today. Last time I did this to elect a sheriff was 2019. Since then, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm 4 since 2019, not including the interims. And to your point, people leaving, Sheriff Hammett left because he was thoroughly done with what he saw. And I can tell you this, I'm probably the only one that calls these sheriffs, if they will talk to me, they will all tell you, they're so disgusted. They don't even want to come back here. There's only one that's willing to come here and tell you what he thinks. And I always tell him no, because he was fired. He was fired because of personality conflict. So nobody could tell you how we got here. But I can tell you on the last day before they closed up their book and were going to present their offerings to the public, he was elected or she was elected. And we are basically based on Allegheny County. As good as Summit is, they based everything on Allegheny County in Pennsylvania, where it's elected. So how did it happen? We don't know. No one's speaking. Many of those people that were on that committee were alive. They know. They don't want to talk about it because it got political. Not because of a corrupt sheriff at the time, and he did anything in office. This is Cuyahoga County. Everybody's got an uncle. Everybody. As a matter of fact, when you get hired into the county, I was hired into the county, and they say, who's your godfather? That's where we were at. Now, we've gotten rid of that. We've done a good job of getting rid of that and getting good people in here, as the various sheriffs have done. But nobody could tell you how we got unelected. So it was politics. It was the politics of dancing in Cuyahoga County, which should disgust everybody in this room. But it doesn't, somehow. And 10, with not counting interims, in 13 years, really, is not a big deal to some people. I think it's a big deal to me, which is why I presented in 2019, elect a sheriff. I got beat on that one, 10-1. Since then, we've had 4 sheriffs. I'm looking pretty good here, I think. But I'll predict you're going to have a hard time getting this on the ballot, and I don't know why. If when you do your budget, do you do your yearly budget or by?
We do a yearly budget.
right,
I'll
so-
start at the end of this month
Okay.
and present to county executive. We'll work on it very heavily in October, and then I present to county council the Monday after Thanksgiving.
Okay. So you lock it in, and you come back in November, and you're underwater because of overtime and what else? What happens then?
When I start looking at being underwater, we immediately go in front of council and give them the heads up. I guess that's why I say it's like, I have a pool of money and it's cash, and you can only use what the cash is there. And when the cash runs out, then there's no more cash. You have to go back before the cash runs out and say, okay, this is what I've got. This is what has happened. This is why I'm over budget, or why I'm going to run over budget within the next 2 months. Now, I don't wait till I'm out of money. We always go in advance. So there's plenty of heads up. So that if there's some areas that we can work around, myself and county council, then we do. So there might be some training or some purchases that we put a stop to, and we hold off on until the next budget. The only time that I've ever gone over budget was specifically just overtime. It was not any other services. It was not any purchases. It was purely overtime costs for doing business. And the majority of that overtime, it's at my jail.
Mhm. What if I told you, and you probably don't know this, that at this November, we'll probably be quietly approached with a broad repayment of at least, and again, here's a Gallagher prediction, they all laugh at me, but somehow nobody calls me, it all comes true, $10, $11 million. You can be $10, $11 million over budget?
No, I won't be that.
Yeah, well, we do this yearly. We've actually supplemented the sheriff's budget with $24 million. This is every year. This is every year.
I would say to you that you need to reevaluate everything that's going on within the office.
And we've struggled and tried, and we have not come to a conclusion. It seems to be personnel-driven. Dollars and cents are important. But like you said, you handle your budget, you present it, whatever they give you, you live within it. But the overtime is the killer, and that's what's killing us. And we're a little bit bigger than you, but so the numbers are a little askew. But the sheriff comes in front of us and tells the administration what he needs. They either agree or disagree. It comes to the council. We either agree, we can adjust it. And historically, we've agreed with the administration and not given them what has been requested. Either this sheriff, this administration, or previous sheriffs, previous administrations have always been denied. But that November date comes in, and boy, we're gonna find somehow 10, 11, 24, whatever the number is, millions of dollars to supplement that to get us back to square one. And something's going on. I think I know what it is, but I can't prove it. And it's nothing nefarious with the sheriff or the administration. I think it's just mismanagement. He wants 40 more guys. So I did the math. And guess what? The mathed. And all of a sudden, that November budget horrible hole is closed. Not totally, because we have the Justice Center, we have the COs, which is another story. But on the deputy side, it does close down with more personnel. But we're also, on the other end, we don't have money to hire people.
Right.
So we're caught. We're caught. And the only thing I think we can do is cut services. And being the sheriff and responsible for what you're responsible for, that's nearly impossible.
That is true. That's why I say you have to really look at the whole organization. He knows what he's doing. Like I said, I'll go back to when I explained to our council that I needed just 6 deputies for my courthouse. I was able to provide them with the number of cases that the courts had, the number of judges, of course, that we have, the number of trials that we had, how many of them were murders, how many of them were gang-related, what the increase was year over year. So I was able to articulate, this is what I need and this is why I need it. And this is what the cost of that will be. Now, you end up paying overtime. If you don't have a body to do the job, you're paying somebody overtime to do that job. And the overtime is where it sounds to me as that's where it's killing you. You have to have the proper staffing. Your sheriff knows what he needs. He needs to articulate to you why. And I'm sure that since I happen to know that he speaks very well, I'm sure that he does that very well.
Right. It's a problem that we have. Now, when you go out and you need to buy cars, how do you do that?
We research as far as trying to get the best deal.
No, what do you do? What do you do? Where do you get the money from?
Oh, it's all set up in my budget.
Okay.
We actually planned out. We know how many vehicles we have, what the mileage is on those vehicles, and we plan out which vehicles that we will take out of service and will need to be replaced. The only challenges that we have is if we end up hitting a deer or having an accident that takes a vehicle out. But everything is all plotted out and planned out in advance. So I know for the next several years what vehicles, provided that there's not an issue with them, what vehicles we will be replacing and what those costs, estimated costs should be.
It just seems to me that the reasonable thing to do is go back to what everybody else is doing and has been successful at doing. And we were successful at doing it. And you will hear arguments about, oh, this sheriff was bad. It was McFall. He wasn't bad. He was actually a great sheriff. He was a difficult gentleman to deal with. He had a personality that was bigger than Cuyahoga County. But he didn't do anything in office that was illegal. They got him on a campaign finance thing at the end of everything else here in the county and got rid of him. And he was a failing older man at the time, and I actually felt sorry for him. But as far as the sheriff goes, there's nobody in here that knows anything about when McFall ran the sheriff's office. You didn't hear complaints. We weren't on the front page. And the county commissioners listened to him, and the judges listened to him, because that sheriff ran that jail. That was his jail. It wasn't the judge's jail. If you had a holdover list, God forbid Monday morning comes, because he'd go to the press. I mean, he was an interesting guy. But you'll also hear we can't change the charter because that's what the people voted for. We changed the charter 14 out of 15 times, and now we're talking about 6 more ways to do it. In 2019, we did change the charter to add restrictions on the movement of the executive and what that person could do with the sheriff. It was total bogus as far as I'm concerned. It was going to fail. I said it at the time, a Gallagher prediction. It's going to fail again. You're predicting it without even knowing it. It's going to continue to fail. And it's not a panacea to elect a sheriff. I understand that. You're taking a chance. But you know what? I'm asking the same people that took a chance on me and everybody up here and the gentleman sitting over there to take a chance on this guy or whoever runs for it. And I don't think that's unreasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Chair? Oh.
Yeah, Councilwoman.
I just have to counter Councilman Gallagher's statement that McFall did nothing wrong. McFall landed 2 felony counts of theft in office and a misdemeanor ethics offense. Prosecutor said he forced his employees to sell tickets to his political fundraiser clam bakes while they were on the clock. He stole money from his campaign fund and violated ethics laws by appointing his son as a special deputy in 1998, court records state. So I don't minimize that at all. And I don't think I need any kind of notes from the past to figure out why the charter founders wanted to have this position, an elected position. It was in response to the biggest scandal in our county history, especially that office. And that, I think, explains it, in my mind, why we're here and why there has to be, in my mind, a real look at the pros and cons of both positions. And I will never minimize what happened and what brought this new government into fruition and how important it is to me as a council person to preserve that higher standard and that ethic. And that's why this is something very seriously to consider whether we're going to change that.
I stand corrected. I don't know, was he convicted of those or charged? Was he convicted? And again, an older man, he was an interesting guy, no doubt about it. And I'm a Republican, so I was Democrat at the time, so I more likely than not voted for him. And would today, because he was a good sheriff. He was an interesting guy. But the reality is, and the councilwoman just said it, the committee took a close look at it. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. It was elected from day one up until the last day. And the last day it changed. I was told a story that I don't want to repeat here, but it was all about certain individuals not caught up in the county corruption that had elected positions that would love to have stayed in those positions. But if the charter came into existence, they would lose their spot. And a little shenanigans were pulled there. We are in Cuyahoga County. What are you going to do? So long, hard discussions? No. Last day, we're ready to go. Oh, here's a poison pill. They bit. No elected sheriff. We move forward. That's how it happened. And that's politics. And that with 10 since 2013 is an embarrassment. But again, I agree. We could be electing another McFall. You could. But is it better than what we're doing now? And not forgetting the Novembers of 11 million, 20, whatever we're doing. So something needs to be done. And tweaking it like we tweaked it with Mr. Tuma's legislation, that, oh, by the way, he was given, he's gone now. He's the law director in Parma, great guy, good friend. He had no idea what was in the legislation, but the council passed it. Couldn't answer a question. The council passed it because that's what they wanted to do. And 4 more sheriffs have come and gone, or 3 sheriffs have come and gone, and now we have Sheriff Patel. So I don't think it's the sheriffs. I think it's us.
Mr. Chair, just one thing. Former Councilman Tuna did know what was in the legislation, and he was well aware of it. I'm not going to, allow that to go uncountered. He knew what was in it, and we voted for it because we thought it was going to be a compromise.
Okay.
And I still don't think it's a bad compromise, but we're going to hear from the sheriff about how that boxes him in, perhaps. Okay?
Thank you.
Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Chair. First, let me thank you for being here. I am truly enjoying the insight that you all have have given us. I have not yet made a decision. I am open and listening to all that's being said. I've been here like some of our other colleagues, just a handful of us left. Been here since the beginning, 15 years now. Well, when I came in, obviously we went from elected to an executive and a row of managers. All those elected officials made row of managers, and there was a greater efficiency, I guess, and some of the duplication was taken away, but also independence was taken away. They were managers now and not elected by the people. And it was said earlier, yourself or maybe one of the sheriffs, it's a difference between, you know, a recorder and now the sheriff. You know, one is measured in life and death, you know, and the others are not. They are not. So I do acknowledge that there's a difference between the sheriff and the others and the impact in terms of little just life and death. But I did come out of this, I've only known this government for 15 years. And as Councilwoman Simon mentioned, the challenges that we were coming out of, for me, I was trying to build a government that worked. And I recognize that, like many of our other colleagues, we needed more independence in our sheriff. And all the little tweaks that were mentioned, we were trying to build them in to find that right balance. There was strong, whether the strengths or weaknesses of the sheriff or the executive and how those dynamics, and there were 10 deaths in the jail and all of these other things in our jail in years past and all these things. And we were trying to create that right balance between the two in the existing government and it's been a work in progress. And every time something came up, there was always a chorus of go back to elected, go back to elected. And my mindset was always, well, why we don't romanticize the past? The further we get away from it, we're romanticizing what, you know, the challenge that Councilwoman Simon just laid out. But at the same time, I don't know that we've gotten to that moment where it's all a great balance between the executive and the sheriff. I consider the sheriff we have now an excellent sheriff. He has my support. But his election or reappointment comes up in 2029, December. So what happens there? We don't know. That's not going to be my decision to make. But we're here trying to figure out how do you create the right balance. And I'm saying this without having an answer. I'm listening, and when it comes time to make a decision, we're going to make the best decision we can. But I'm really just kind of getting it all out right now, just trying to put my thoughts out here as to what I'm thinking and, you know, gathering from you what information I can. One thing I just learned today, and this is where my question will come from, is as you talked about your interaction with your county executive, you're meeting regularly, monthly. That is a dynamic, obviously, conversation between equals. You're both elected, and it's the council that handles your budget or approves your budget. Our experience has been over budget, and it probably, now I'm just speculating, but it's probably just strong speculation over my experience of 10 years, 15 years. There are times when the managers, they say, we've talked with our executive, they've asked us to, and I'm talking about past executives, cut your budget 10%, things like that. We're trying to get it down. So they come and stand at that podium and they say they support the budget that's been put forward because there's been that conversation, monthly conversation with the executive. And that budget might be low. I might even have a sidebar conversation. Listen, I know you support the budget that's been put forward. I said, but do you have critical services that are being impacted by this cut? Do they need to be restored? Those offline conversations. And then when they stand here, they give the company line but I know that there's some other things they might need, and we might stand here and give them, make sure the best we can, make sure they have what they need. Okay, so with that being our experience, that is where I'm now realizing just today, when we're talking about something over budget, it's because they might come in with a lower budget and find out we need to add some more money 6 months down the line. So that's where our experience is over budget. Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing from you today is that there is no middle person between yourself and the council. You're coming with what you believe is the best budget on day one. And if that's it, then that's it. And if you have to come back, car hit a deer or something, then you come back, but it's not our experience for 15 years.
That's the way that it is. We're given the budget, we work it out. I can articulate every single person within the organization. The variables obviously come with contracts, and like this year, things will change because I have 3 contracts that are up, and they're all getting raises, and so that's going to impact the budget that was set back in November. But we knew that, and everyone knew that going in. Your sheriff knows exactly what they need. Every sheriff in this state, they know exactly what they need. They have a 98% chance of saying that this is the budget I really should have, and this is why I need it. And being able to articulate every piece of it. Every one of the men behind me can do that for you. They could do that for their council or their trustees or commissioners. We all have that ability. If you do it right the first time, you shouldn't have to go back unless something serious occurred. And if you know that in advance, that this situation occurred and that it's going to impact your budget, then you have months to be able to come back to you instead of waiting until the end of the year. So I would say that because we all go to school. We all are required by state statute to go to all 88 sheriffs together. We go to school for 2 days together every year, whether we want to or not. We do. And we're taught what we need to do. We're all professionals. I'm not going to tell you that every single sheriff in the state of Ohio or in the nation that none of us are going to ever get in trouble. We always have somebody. But if it's not a sheriff, it's a council person, or it's an executive, or a commissioner, or a police chief, or, we're all human beings. I don't think that it's appointing your sheriff because the fact that the sheriff before had some corrupt tendencies towards the end of his career. I don't know that means that every sheriff that comes after him that's elected is going to do the same thing. The probability is they will not. There's a small percentage of sheriffs that end up going to jail and being because of things that they did in office. And usually what gets them in trouble is their FOJ funds. But that conversation is one to have with the prosecutor because they direct us. So I say this, that, I appreciate everybody's opinion on your sheriffs, whether it should be elected or appointed. I encourage you to consider what the majority of the rest of the nation does, and that is elect their sheriffs, and there's a reason for that. And I also encourage you to listen to the public. And does the public, are they happy with 10 sheriffs in such a short period of time? Summit County was formed in 1840. The very first elected official in Summit County was the sheriff. I am the 39th sheriff since 1840. You've got 10 in just a few years.
Thank you for that. And I have one final question. One of the most difficult times for me was when we had the 10 deaths in the jail in a very short window of time. Can you speak to, in your experience, did you ever experience anything like that? And what do you do on a daily basis to mitigate those type of things?
So I have had deaths in my jail. I've had a suicide, and I believe 3 medical, 1 mental health and 2 medical issues. Thankfully, they were not all together, and they were individual. After the first 2, I went to my county executive and told them that I wanted the medical provider out. I didn't feel that they were taking good care of my inmates. Those men and women, they deserve better, and I am entrusted with their care and their custody. And so we, after much discussion back and forth, we agreed to search for another medical provider, and I'm very happy with the one that I have. I had a death that was, in my opinion, a direct result of mental health. He was in our severe mental health pod, and I didn't feel that the mental health provider was doing what they should. And we are, for 2 years, I've been meeting monthly with our ADM board and our executive, talking about the mental health provider and what the men and women in my jail should have. I have made, because I am elected and I can do it, I've made significant changes in how our jail is run and how it's perceived. I've insisted on it being clean. You can come into my jail, you will not smell anything. It almost smells like a hospital. It's very clean, very sanitary, and the men and women that are in our jail are being taken care of. We've provided all kinds of extra programs, and those programs are designed to address the inmates' their individual needs, their traumas, and assist them in getting education and employment. My job is to try to reduce recidivism, and by reducing recidivism, you lower the crime in your community, and that's the job of the sheriff. And your sheriff, if they don't feel that they have the full ability to make the decisions in their jail that impact the people that they are responsible for, if they don't have that ability to do that, or if they don't have that comfort level to do that, then you're not going to have change in your county, and you're going to continue to have problems within the jail itself. So being an elected sheriff, everyone behind me, we all do the same thing. But we respond to the needs of our community differently in every county. So I hope that answers your questions. And I would encourage you, quite honestly, you know, he looked me up, please do. See what we're doing. I can promise you that Sheriff Patel, if given an opportunity to feel fully comfortable in the decisions that he makes in his jail, he'll improve it. But I still maintain he needs to be an elected sheriff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Sheriff. Before our councilman moves forward, I just wanted to thank you and your colleagues. Let me make sure I got it right. Astrobula, Lorraine, Carroll, Stark, Summit, and Geauga are joining us today. Thank you all for coming up here. Thank you for your words, your contributions, and your respective counties are very fortunate to have your leadership. So thank you all for making the journey. My parents live in Summit County, lifelong residents down that way, so it's nice to see a friendly face.
Where at?
Hudson, and then my mom's down in Ellett.
Lived in Ellett for 38 years,
Ripley Avenue.
right around the corner from me.
All right. It's good to see you, Sheriff.
Just for a moment here,
Councilman,
what
real
great
quick.
perspective and value that she just brought to our discussion. So I think we should give her a little bit. Thank you, Sheriff.
Councilman, just real quick, Councilman Kelly had one more comment, if you don't mind.
For her? What are you talking? No, I'm just kidding. Come on back.
No, she can stay seated.
Sheriff,
I just wanted,
on YouTube.
through the chair, I just wanted to thank all the sheriffs that are here for your patience. We have an awesome sheriff's department here, but I've never felt safer during a meeting than I'll have to say today. So thanks again for being here. Thanks for your insight.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Again, it's to all of you, so you don't have to stand there in particular. I wanted to thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us. We recognize that each of you have responsibilities in your own jurisdictions, and your willingness to share your thoughts and your experiences was sincerely appreciated. Sheriff Fothery, specifically, thank you for your thoughtful and thorough presentation. I serve as Finance and Budgeting Chair, so this weighs heavily on me. You have given us a great deal to think about and consider. I found your perspective, particularly as a sheriff of our fellow charter county, to be extremely valuable. One thing that also struck me throughout today's discussion is that good government is about more than organizational charts and titles. It's about relationships, communication, accountability, and trust. So regardless of the structure, and I am undecided, regardless of the structure, the sheriff, the executive, the fiscal office, the council, we all have responsibilities that are interconnected. And ultimately, the people expect all of us to work together in service to the public. So again, I just want to thank you for your perspective. It was very helpful. And I look forward to further discussion on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilman Sweeney, let's wrap it up.
I don't think I'm trying my hardest, but it is a question that deserves the full attention and deliberation of this council. So I do appreciate the patience, and I can't be more happy that we had the opportunity to hear from the sheriff from Summit County. It wasn't planned. I asked her to come and share, but the breadth of her knowledge and understanding of this, as I said before, is adding great value to our deliberation, and I'm so happy that I got to meet her today. Sheriff Patel, he was next on our list. He's going to, or Pretel, he's going to come up and say a few words and answer any questions that my esteemed colleagues would like to ask him. Sheriff?
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Sheriff.
Good afternoon, Council. So say hello, let you know that it has been my privilege and my honor to be serving as the Sheriff of Cuyahoga County since July 18th of 2023. I appreciate the executive support, appointment, and the confirmation by council and all the other things we've been through. Today, I want to take the time to thank my fellow sheriffs for coming up here from all over the state and supporting myself, supporting the office, supporting the process, and supporting democracy. So thank you for taking your time today, driving here, spending here, and kind of watching how we do some things here, but also just giving of your spirit and of your experience to this decision-making body. So thank you again, sheriffs, and thank the Buckeye State Sheriff Association for the support. Major County Sheriffs of America also is crafting a letter in support of this, as well as many sheriffs also called and have called a few of you, called me, and made some other, wrote some other letters also, so I want to thank them. Today, I just want to mention a few things. Obviously, busy day for us. Started out today with a flood in the Justice Center, so we had to shut down operations in conjunction with the court. I will let you know that in the jail, the residents, things are back to normal because electricity and water, except drinking water, is back to normal. However, operations elsewhere had to wait till about 4:30 today. They had to get some kind of a circuit breaker from Pennsylvania. So just so you're aware that that is going forward, but those are the kind of things that our office takes care of on a regular basis. I do want to also remind you, a few of the sheriffs spoke to that. I'm not going to repeat everything they said, but they spoke to a few points. One, the difference between the sheriff, because it's been characterized by others, between the sheriff, police chief, and the colonel of the highway patrol. Those are different relationships, obviously, but the sheriff is in the Ohio Revised Code. Because the sheriff's department, the sheriff's office, does so many different things that no other law enforcement entity does. Whether it's going to be civil procedures, forfeitures, offender unit, electronic monitoring, running of the jail, which is probably 2/3 of our operation. So all of these things collectively are outside of the traditional law enforcement 911 response patrol operation mode that nobody else does. By doing those functions, we support every municipality in Cuyahoga County. And obviously respectively, every county does for themselves. So I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of that those functions are entirely different. And therefore, those functions touch not only public safety, but civil rights on a regular basis. And I think you remember when I first came here, my commitment to professional, respectful, constitutional service, constitutional policing. And that's something in all of our spheres, whether it's going to be in jail operations with our residents in our custody, or it's going to be in investigations or task force or in court operations, that is our crux. So I want to make sure that, that's the balance there. To a couple comments about Sheriff McFall. I did work under Sheriff McFall as a deputy many years ago before I went over and did some other work next door to Cleveland Police. However, other politicians, elected and others, get in trouble for a variety of reasons around the country and around the world, and we don't do away with the position or the function. We eliminate the problem, address it, and move on, correct? So that's, just want to mention that part. Whatever happened with the sheriff, yeah, that could have moved, just moved on from that. So as far as changing the form of this government, I got to tell you a few reasons why it will be beneficial and why supporting what the majority of the country. I spoke with the Major County Sheriffs of America yesterday, actually Friday, and off the top of our heads, only less than a handful of appointed sheriffs throughout the country. And I think Sheriff Fothery spoke to that also, it's been a series of issues with that. I am proud to be the sheriff. I love what we do. We have a super department. I have a terrific group of men and women from the correction service officers, protective service officers, correction officers, deputy sheriffs, and our professional staff who help us do what we do. Haven't seen any scandal. The ship isn't rocking. We're going forth. We just ask the support of the executive's office and council to get our mission done. That's all we ask. On the budgetary side, very fair points, very good points, and Madam Chairwoman and I discussed this a couple of times. But when we discuss budget, we also have to discuss proper funding. Proper funding absolutely puts great guardrails in place. Hey, and like Sheriff Fothery explained, if there's a need to go outside of that for overtime, vehicles, whatever it might be, there's a process for that through council and the executive's office, no problem. But that's a discussion to have on the proper funding. We've talked about that before. I just want to make sure, because that topic did come up, I want to make sure that we address it. For the past number of years, 5, 7 years or so, and it's on one of the other YouTube channels we've done this, it's been shown that the Sheriff's Department has been underfunded. The projection that was presented by the fiscal team was not what was funded. And then in the end, as Councilman Gallagher mentioned, they had to go back and put it back. So it's not that there was no knowledge of what the budget would be. Knowledge was there, that's not what it was funded for. So just not going to discuss budget today, not going to solve that today, just want to mention that, just to balance the discussions that took place on budget. But when it comes to the decision-making and partnership, we know that public safety is a team sport. Council, executive, sheriff, Office of Violence Prevention, police, marshal, feds, etc. It's a team sport. But we have to be able to make decisions that are the right decisions for our communities. Just last week, we had a meeting with Mayor Morgan in East Cleveland about what else can we do there to make things better. And we had some discussions, some options. Highway Patrol was present. Cleveland Clinic Police was present. RTA Police was present. CMHA Police was present. We were very, very proud to be there assisting them as we are this summer with various things. However, the entity with statutory authority to assist there was the Sheriff's Department. Why? Because the sheriff has the responsibility to preserve the public peace anywhere within a county. And we get around different municipalities and have different requests for service, for support, whether it's for festivals or for parades or whether it's for criminal activity going on. We have a lot of that going on. A lot of those requests come in, and we field those. So having that responsibility that affects public safety, civil rights, is important for the public, to not water that down through others, but to be able to directly address the person in charge of those, which is the elected sheriff. So not that they couldn't, in our current form of government, there are some additional layers there. And if I wasn't a sheriff who was transparent, who was forward, who was constitutional, did all the above, I could choose to hide under council or under the executive and say, oh, not my, well, some decisions have to be made. And it's important that our community know that those decisions are being made with their best interest at heart, by the professionals who run this business. The professionals, my staff who does the super hard work, I am the advocate for them, but at the end of the day, I'm the one that's going to select the direction that we're going to sail in. And if the ship is 3 degrees off center, it's our job to correct it off that. So that's why that's important. I want to make sure that we understand that. My relationship with council, with the executive, we've done great work. The Correctional Canine Screening Program, extremely proud of that. And I know that leads to less phone calls in the middle of the night, got a couple of those last night, to the former president, to President Miller, because or to the executive team, that's been my normal, right? Something really bad happens, I inform, and I think that's appropriate, whether it's an elected, appointed sheriff, or whatever. But that's what we do. But those efforts by the men and women in the correctional division, those efforts of forming that team and knowing that those investments had to be made, and with the support of council, thank you, Councilwoman Simon, on that, the support of council, that was huge. While we talk about that, in 2019, the amendment that was passed in 2019, speaking directly to the removal of the sheriff exclusively by a supermajority vote of council, one thing that came up there was the example, we talk about independence, was the example of the Attorney General of the United States. Appointed, confirmed, Senate no longer has control over him. And that's another thing, we can look it up on YouTube. This council, maybe not every single person here, but this council went over that. So, that's one example. When we talk about independence, that's for independence. When it comes to the elected process, we know that the public tends to be somewhat reactionary. But what is the best antidote to reactionary moves? Stability. Stability in the position, particularly when that stability is founded on great work, is founded on constitutional policing, is founded on respectful treatment, is founded on increased programmatic participation for residents in our custody. As Sheriff Fothery mentioned, reducing recidivism and sending people out better than they came into our facility, the facility that you fund and the executive funds, right? That facility. People leave there better, whether they go home on an ankle monitor, or they go home not guilty, or they go away for a while and come back. The programming that we offer allows us to give those people additional tools to hopefully not return. I reported last fall to council that there were approximately 300 people who'd been in the county jail about 8 times in the past 12 months or so. And the goal was that those individuals not return because they are our programmatic improvements so they don't return into our custody. I say our custody because we're in this together, right? I mean, if something goes really bad, there's going to be some discussion on to what happened, what was in place, what measures were in place, what was approved, not approved, et cetera. So it's our custody, but reducing those numbers. Expediting people. We talked about a population manager, an individual who would assist us going through the jail, identifying who does not have to be here. And I say that respectfully because there are people who, that's where they belong as part of their legal process for now. But there are some people who shouldn't be there. Low-level offenders, some mental health stuff, very low bonds. We work very well with the bail project. So the population manager would be the quarterback for that, reducing our risk. And that's something that I take very seriously, and I know my staff takes very seriously, is reducing the risk, not only in our facility, but also every function that the sheriff's department touches. So reducing risk, as we know, remember, risk is a function of vulnerability times threat. So therefore, you can never eliminate risk, but we can reduce risk. So back to the stability. Stability based on proven risk reduction, proven leadership, proven good decision-making, proven lack of scandal, right? All that leads to stability, because sometimes people kind of just, make knee-jerk reactions on things without knowing all the facts. Another thing people talk about a lot is being self-insured, right? Counties self-insured, cities are self-insured. What that means is taxpayer insured. When we say it's government funded, that is taxpayer funded. And we have to be mindful, decisions that we're making, not only with the exact purchase, right? Is the newest gadget, is it really something we need today? Is it something we can wait? Can we get version B? But more importantly, are we jumping over dollars to pick up pennies? Because that does happen in some instances, not always within our purview, but it does happen in our system, in our process, right? It could include the hiring of an individual, right? So when we hire someone, when we make a purchase, when we enter into a contract, that's important. And I can tell you that that is something else that I take very seriously, because that's part of stewardship. Again, stewardship leads to proper stewardship leads to stability. So I think that the leadership, the stewardship, lack of scandal, accountability, responsibility for all these various functions, and the proper execution of same certainly speaks to why I believe that that's a confident, comfortable position for council and for our voters, the electorate, that they can select the best person. So that's my point on that. Any quick questions for me about the water main break, or anything else I can answer?
Councilwoman Simon.
Thank you, Sheriff, so much. Based upon what you just stated, you indicated stability is important and described why the job you're doing is good for the community, right? We heard how you're working hard for providing safety and stability. But council, when you had the overtime gap, council provided you with that. We were able to give you the funding each year to provide that for you, so you could continue operating as you described today,
Yes.
correct? So you've been able to continue on with these programs and everything else that you've described today. You've been able to do that. So can you explain why you are advocating for an elected sheriff and how that would be different from that which you're able to do now? And if and how you're being impeded by the structure and the executive?
Councilwoman, I think that there's a couple of things that, that's a big discussion there. I can give you some examples when it comes to making decisions on hiring. I can give you some examples when it comes to assignments, operational things. I can also tell you that currently there's some litigation going on, so I can't get too deep into it. But I will tell you this, I'll give you this example. Third world countries don't negotiate very well with nuclear superpowers, right? It doesn't work out too well. If
I don't
there's a
know,
power.
we're watching that in real time, I guess.
Councilman, that's a great point. That is a historical point, very good. But the nuclear, anyway, okay. And as Sheriff Fothery mentioned, her discussions with the executive's team and council, those are important. But at the end of the day, there's a difference between recommending and approving. Big difference, as council knows, because council doesn't recommend. Council approves. There's a huge difference. So when it comes to a direction, making a decision, whether it's on a human resources issue, whether it's a personnel issue or some other matter, there's a big difference between just recommending, which is basically asking, or approving and going forward with the chosen course of action, which is probably the best for the agency, made by people who wear this uniform.
Sheriff, but at the end of the day, it's still council in any event that would enable you to continue your programming when your department, I mean, the executive could say no and hand you a budget that's inadequate, which has been the case we've seen. But at the end of the day, you're still able to come to this body and get the funding you need to move forward. So you've given me a couple examples of how you see you're being impeded, hiring, personnel, HR, assignments, and operations. How does the executive impede that? Isn't it, at the end of the day, the funding that would enable you to do that or not do those things?
I look at the funding, through the chair of the councilwoman, I look at the funding as a guide to, again, like Sheriff Fowler said, if you have the funding, you can do what you need to do, right? Sometimes within that funding, there's operational decisions that probably aren't always my first choice. And I'll have to stop there at this current time.
Okay, and I'm going to move on because time is short, but a concern I have is the example of the Downtown Safety Patrol, and you know that I was concerned about the inception of that unit, and I was concerned for several reasons, one of which was we were taking, in my opinion, funding away from the core function of the sheriff department to, for example, we don't have enough deputies in the courthouse, and I keep hearing that, but yet we took funding, and I know you have a different perspective, to fund this unit, and you continued with that, and I was concerned, secondly, that there would be deaths occurring because of the pursuits. And there were 3 deaths that we and Councilman Gallagher were, prognosticated, but we were able, and I was able in particular, to work with you to come to a really good outcome, in my opinion. We came up with a new policy that I think is really workable right now. We were able to do that. And I'm not sure that if you were elected, or any sheriff were elected, if they would have the same incentive to work alongside or with the commissioners, the county council, the executive, to come up with a resolution, because if you're independently elected, I'm not sure that that incentive exists. So that would be a concern I have, because I really appreciated this relationship. And I think a piece of that goes away when there's an elected component.
Through the chair of the councilwoman, I appreciate the thoughts on that. And I want to make it about the office, not necessarily about me. However, my collaborative nature from all my vast experience, other places, and what I've done here. And I think that was a terrific working group, which we know that even happens at the federal level when there's major issues. When you have multidisciplinary working groups, you get different perspectives and different visions on courses of action, and that was one example that it worked. And I think that given the nature of what happened, when it happened, timeliness of it, I think that was a reasonable action that we took, and I think that would be something considered by an elected sheriff also.
Okay, thank you.
Here.
So we are getting short on time, so can we do 2 more? And then we'll move on. We still got about 3 items to get through in about an hour.
I'll be quick. Mine will be real quick.
Okay.
Not my question, my charter amendment.
Councilman Jones.
So again, thank you, Sheriff. I've said before, I've been supportive of you.
Thank you, sir.
When I look back over the history of the sheriffs, I consider you one of our better sheriffs.
Thank you, sir.
But again, to use your words, to step outside of your particular role, I said before, I've only known this government. I came in, after a corruption scandal. The federal government had to come in and take folks away, and all those things. And so it is a stretch for me I'm asking you to, because one day it won't be you, it will be someone else, even if that's 20 years from now, someone else. What can you tell me to give me confidence that there would not, how do we deal with not going back to what we experienced before? How to put it in context for me. Help me to see it beyond yourself, but why we don't go back from the frying pan into the fire or vice versa.
Yes, sir. Through the chair of the councilman, fair question, sir. I can tell you that law enforcement has changed with the times, and Sheriff McFall was...
But I would open that to any of the sheriffs too.
Yes, sir.
Had any insight into that as well.
Sheriff McFall, and I know you're referencing him, that's why I bring up his name, bless his soul.
Not just him, but, certainly.
In this case, he was sworn in I believe, 1977 or so. So it's certainly from a total different era. And I can tell you that the professional men and women who serve as sheriffs today, just a different time as we look at our professionalism, we look at technology, look at body cams, all of the above, which makes for better decision-making, better transparency, better accountability, better reporting. And reporting in this scenario, we're talking about elected sheriffs to the electorate. What are you doing? What are you doing? How are you handling these things? Like Councilwoman Sonny brought up, there's a situation we addressed that the public should know that, and the public does know that in this case, and they would know that. So selecting and electing the proper person, the proper professional, will prevent from going back into those days, which now are kind of like movies out of it, right? Because it's not the way things go on today, for the most part. Maybe a few exceptions somewhere around the country, but by and large, that is not the way we operate. And the proof is, we don't see headlines every day, or shall I say, we don't see tweets every day. We don't see anything on X every day saying sheriff in X County, Ohio, indicted for X, Y, and Z. We don't see that. We don't see that level of scandal. So much different professionalism in our time, much better candidacy, and again, much more responsibility on the elected sheriff.
Councilman Hauser.
Super quickly through the chair, Sheriff, I think very highly of you. I think you and Frank Bova are in like a class of your own.
Thank you.
I think we're in this position because Cuyahoga County is unique, especially from a corruption perspective. I love your point, even removing you from the office nationally, the sheriff departments are 92% white, 98% male. How do you think, in your opinion, going to an elected sheriff will help with accountability and I think equally diversity as well?
Through the chair, to the councilman, great question, sir. I think when we look at that in any elected office, we look at this board. We look at not only the gender but race diversification of this board. So I think that whoever the best candidate is, we're in a time and age when the best candidate really should, regardless of whatever demographic they are or demographic is going to select them, they have a good chance of being elected. I understand that's not always 100%, and I understand that sometimes people say the fix is in. We've all heard those, but I also think that particularly in Cuyahoga County, and we know what the demographics are of our county, of the city of Cleveland, et cetera. Even given those, I think that that's something that would be addressed, or just like it is on this board. And if we look at the bench, also on the bench, and newly elected judges to the bench.
All right, we will have Councilman Sweeney give us final comments, and then we'll move on to our next item. Councilman Sweeney.
Way to box me in. Sheriff, just a quick question. When you started,
Yes, sir.
we talked about it's your jail, you're independent. When you come here, you ask for a budget number, and we've been shorting you. And then you've been just dealing with what we gave you. And then as Councilman Gallagher says, we have to deal with the outcome of not granting your request. And with the executive and you and the appointed, is it awkward that any executive would say, you have to do this, you have to live in your budget, and that's how you do it? Talk about that for a brief second.
Through the chair to the councilman, and that's something that, again, previous episodes, we can see that I've presented the chart that has transcended various administrations and various sheriffs, but that has been the case. Where maybe we don't agree on the budget and we talk about equals discussing, that's where it's less than equal. Because the budget is the budget, the term we use is underfunded, and as this council knows, I and my staff have always just presented accurately and truthfully to you where we are on things. I don't know if everyone has, but I know that we have, and that's something that speaks to our credibility and I'd like to think gives us additional support, because it's not always easy. And I do know that budget is tight across the entire county. It's not anything personal against me or against the sheriff's department. Budget is tight. And I think that sometimes the prioritization obviously could be different, and I have to be a little self-centric with the sheriff's department. But again, the business of saving lives is what we do. And that's something that I feel very strongly about, and why that has impacted our operations.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. Really appreciate your words. I think we're kind of ready to move forward unless there's any final comments from Councilman Sweeney. I know. Okay. All right, very good. We're going to move on. Thank you very much, Sheriff. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, if you will read item 170.
To talk
on
about this.
one. Okay.
My coup de grace is coming right now.
Gotcha.
Okay. If you put that back up for me. The next one. This is a very brief one. Some of our sheriffs talked about it. It's just headlines throughout some comparable counties. And with other counties, the topics are policing practices, officers incidents, and jail policies. Similar of Cuyahoga County, our headlines are lawsuits, control, and governance debates. And it all boils down to me, it is the current structure of governance is fundamentally flawed, and I'll add on steroids. We just had the entire presentation of how dysfunctional with all the sheriffs and all the things that are happening. Great presentations here, but none of that matters. Zero. It's not the question we're calling right now. The question that we're calling is, where's the flow? Keep going. What's that number? Anybody know that number? That number? That's the amount of eligible voters in Cuyahoga County. What's that number? The number of people that are going to vote in November of this year. And this topic is hot. People are talking about it. I bring it up all the time. They don't even know who to bring their opinions to because, as I said before, no one knows who we are. And that's a problem. So the people want to have, on all the other charter amendments, most of them, they were technical. This is something that the people want to make a decision on. And some folks on this council believe that the charter is an important document, and so do I. But the charter can be improved. And the number one thing I am supportive of is democracy and the right for individuals to vote on their way of living. And it all boils down to one simple question. And that simple question is, should Cuyahoga County Sheriff be elected with these requirements? Yes or no? It's very simple. We need to let the people decide. Thank you for listening to me. I look forward to a continued hearty debate, and most importantly, our guests came down and added tremendous value. I'm going to see you up there, and I'm coming back one more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Sweeney.
Mr. Chair, there was a slide up here about headlines. If I just can have a quick.
Trying to hit it fast.
So what is the point of this slide? That we have a headline about our lawsuit was on government accountability and governance, and the other counties' headlines address other issues?
Yeah, my intent was to show you our county has negative headlines in regards to the governance, the policies, and whatever the third one is, compared to other counties that have the other headlines.
I think Lorraine County just had a lawsuit where the county sheriff sued the county commissioners over 9/11 funding.
You can grill me on this one. I just asked my staff.
I don't need a grill. I'm just saying, I just want to know the point.
I apologize for
And if the
not
point,
listening to that.
wait, just if the point is that we have these issues because it's an appointed sheriff versus elected sheriff, my point is that I think we can see the same type of issues when there's an elected sheriff. That's all.
Oh, absolutely. I stand corrected. When I asked for the very quick AI, this is what came out. And I'm sticking with the system is fundamentally flawed and needs to be changed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Sweeney. Okay. We are going to move to item 170. Thank you to everybody that participated in that particular piece of the conversation. We still have 2 meetings where we can discuss this, so people will have more opportunity to chat about this particular piece. So thank you again, and thank you to all of our sheriffs for attending. We're deeply appreciative of all that you do for us. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you will read item 170.
Resolution number 2026-0170, providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 2, Section 2.03, and Article 6, Section 6.04 of the county charter to require that the county council confirm the executive's removal of members of boards, agencies, commissions, and authorities as are, one, created by or pursuant to the charter, or two, as are provided by general law, to be appointed by boards of county commissioners.
Someone to speak to the issue?
Sure, thank you. This is an amendment I put forth, and I spoke to this last time we were here. It simply states that if county council confirms the executive's appointments to boards or commissions, that the executive cannot unilaterally, without council's input, remove that appointee, the appointment that we collectively made together. And I think that makes sense, since we're all confirming, and if we think that this particular appointee is worthy of the position that council confirms, then we should also be able to weigh in on whether that person becomes unworthy. That's all. And this, I think importantly, the question was asked, this does not apply to the executive's directors or his administration team. This is our board appointments.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Do we have any comments or questions? Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the chairwoman for putting forward. I believe it's important, and it's going to add great value to our governance.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Okay, pretty easy. You were right. Oh, Madam Vice President.
I just want to ask a question in regards to the whole. So we have quite a few amendments, or charter amendments that we want to put on. I know it's a long stretch if all of them got elected or passed with votes. How many are we realistically, or do we know at this moment, that we will put forward? Will we put all of them forward, or?
I think that's a very good question. Okay. Let's see. Any other comments or questions about this particular piece? Council President.
I'm just going to comment a little bit on the Vice President's question, just to say that it's a very important question that we should all be thinking about, and I alluded to it briefly in my opening structural comments, and we should all give thought. I think that if my memory of history serves me right, that 4 is the largest number that we ever submitted to the voters at one time, and that was unusual. So that's all.
Thank you, Council President. Other questions or concerns before we move on?
I don't think there's going to be 4. I think there'll probably be maybe 3 to 4. And this would be hopefully one of them.
Thank you, Council. Okay. All right, we will move down to item 181. Madam Clerk, if you will read that for us.
Resolution number 2026-0181, providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 16 of the county charter to provide the county executive the power to suspend, discipline, or remove the sheriff.
Is there someone to speak to this?
Mr. Chair, I'm available to speak, if I may.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council. Eric Janis, Chief of Staff. This amendment was introduced by the executive 2 weeks ago in Committee of the Whole, and I think he spoke eloquently about the rationale from his perspective of why we're doing this. If I may just add a little more perspective for you all, and then happy to answer any questions you may have, or have the law department answer any technical related questions that you have. So I want to speak just for a moment on the core issue that led the administration to propose clarifying this governance structure. When the charter was originally adopted, voters envisioned a simple, direct, and transparent model. The county executive manages operations, and the council provides clear oversight and policy guidance. Over the years, however, specifically with respect to the sheriff's office, Structural changes have drifted a bit away from that model. As a result, we now have a system where leadership accountability for the sheriff is uncertain, administrative policy compliance is then often inconsistent, and budget management has become difficult to control. I want to point out 4 issues that we bring forward as a reason why we have submitted this amendment for consideration. First, leadership accountability. Under the current structure, the accountability framework has become unclear. The executive's authority to manage or discipline the sheriff is not explicitly stated, and this ambiguity, as we all have seen, has caused significant real-world problems: inconsistent decision-making, shifting in priorities, and limited operational follow-through. Operational oversight. This ambiguity also creates diffuse or inconsistent implementation of administrative policies. Staffing issues have been delayed and results only partially implemented. Lack of department leadership clarity has disrupted planning, budgeting, and labor negotiations. A clarified structure supports consistent direction, stable leadership hierarchy, streamlined decision-making, and clear operational accountability. Ambiguous operational oversight often means that the county ends up absorbing additional risks and/or inefficiencies. Third, administrative policy oversight. For instance, HR policies have been implemented without required central review. Financial and administrative practices sometimes diverge from county-wide standards. These kinds of things make agreements harder to negotiate on behalf of the county with vendors and with others. So clear authority would provide coordination, consistency, and compliance on administrative policy alignment. And fourth, budgeting and financial controls. The department's high overtime costs and inability to implement controls, oversight, and practices that have been recommended by the administration and third parties, like the auditor, to reduce those costs. Those unbudgeted mid-year requests, there are also unbudgeted mid-year requests for equipment. We continue to have findings showing non-compliant spending from our regulators and outdated financial controls that prevent the ability to manage our budget. A clarified structure brings budget discipline and aligns financial oversight within audit requirements and other controls. I want to point out finally that this amendment, as the executive stated 2 weeks ago, is narrowly focused. It preserves all the major safeguards and responsibilities already built into the system, does not diminish the sheriff's independence or operational authority in any of the areas where the sheriff has statutory responsibility, such as his law enforcement duties. Nothing in this amendment changes the sheriff's powers over law enforcement operations or jails management. Those responsibilities remain fully intact, exactly as state law and our charter prescribe. It does not limit or remove council's ability to remove the sheriff for cause, as you all approved for yourselves in the prior charter amendment in 2019. Council's oversight role and policy coordination role remains unchanged. The administration does not restrict the sheriff's ability to report misconduct, wrongdoing, or any violations of federal, state, or local law, or impact any whistleblower protections protecting the independence of the sheriff and his employees. We look forward to hearing the conversation and the debate among members of council on this issue and receive the feedback that you all provide in these deliberations. And we are always willing to consider making appropriate adjustments to make our amendment work better. The goal is straightforward: restore clarity, enforce accountability, and realign responsibilities. And we look forward to working with you all on that in the next few weeks to accomplish that. Thank you.
We're going to open it up for comments. We'll start with Councilman Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, thank you for your comments. When I had the privilege of listening to his eloquent comments, I brought up the question of the 2019 TUMA has us fired, and he said this legislation is going to give him the opportunity but not take ours away. And the word unchanged, I'm hearing a little bit, or regularly in this conversation. I believe the charter amendment that passed in 2019 said council has the responsibility solely to remove the sheriff. And if with this one, it's the executive or the county council can remove the sheriff. I've never heard of any operationally, that's why this is fundamentally flawed too, where two entities can fire one person. And I think that's what's being requested in this ordinance or piece of legislation. Is that accurate?
Councilmember, the amendment as we proposed it did not change council's authority as it exists because of the 2019 amendment. But what we would argue is, as with other appointed positions within the executive branch of government, the executive has the management oversight to discipline and, if need be, remove the sheriff, just like we do with other non-appointed employees. So it does not remove your ability. If for some reason the council thought it was in their interest, there was a reason for cause to remove the sheriff, but it preserves the executive's ability, as he has with his other appointed directors, to remove.
Thank you. Through the chair to our council, does it say solely, Mike? Excuse me, Mr. Attorney Extraordinaire Michael King.
Michael King, council staff. So you're asking about the current charter?
In
provision?
2019,
Yes.
the language that was approved by the citizens of Cuyahoga County.
Yeah, so it doesn't use the term solely, but the removal provision says, during the term of appointment, the sheriff may be removed from office only for cause by resolution receiving the affirmative vote of at least 8 members of the council. That's the only process in our charter
And
for removal.
so instead of solely, we can use only.
Only for cause.
Yeah, but only council.
Yes. It doesn't say only council, but in practice, that's what the charter currently says. The only provision for removal is through the council resolution process.
I was going to ask you, would that be a fundamental change, but I don't want to put you on the spot. But thank you for that
No problem.
clarification. And through the chair, I'm just going to keep driving the point home from my perspective. It is a fundamental change, and two individuals or two entities can fire one person. It makes no sense to me. And I don't know any place else that I've been where I've heard that, and it makes no sense. So I just wanted to drive the point home of it does change the council's authority in regards to our directive from the Cuyahoga County residents saying, it's yours. And with this passing, it would be ours. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Chief of Staff.
Councilman Kelly, followed by Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Janus, so can we come into work one day to do what we do and find out that the executive removed the sheriff and we had nothing to do with it? That's what it sounds like in here.
As it was before the 2019 amendment, as the powers were introduced in the original charter, that hypothetically would be allowed by the executive. I will tell you this is not, the intent of this is not to deal with this specific sheriff, but rather to be able to have appropriate management oversight. And so if the council wants to deliberate and have a discussion, we're happy to about how to change that language to give you greater comfort. That is not the intent, to come in the next day and fire somebody.
Okay, sound that way to me, but thank you.
Councilwoman Simon.
We could, I think it is true, we could walk in one day and the executive can terminate the sheriff without cause.
If this amendment passes, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's what he was referencing.
Yeah.
And what's worse, I'm going to address Councilman Sweeney's point. Council can remove only with cause. We have that stipulation and constraint, but the executive has free rein without cause to remove or discipline. So I don't think those two should be in the same charter amendment at all.
We're happy to have conversations, council member, about that. I will point out that with other appointed directors, the executive has the ability to remove without cause. The reason we left that language in was because we explicitly did not want to take away the language that you all gave, the authority that you all gave yourselves. You're right, it's incongruent. What we are looking for is consistency between the sheriff as an employee of the county executive and the other appointed directors of the county executive.
I think, we've sat through a discussion and hours in the past about the sheriff and how that department, that position is somehow different from, let's say, a director at the executive's office over transportation. I think there's just an inherent difference in that. And this amendment speaks to my amendment in a way that, what I'd like to avoid as a council person is not giving the executive the ability to solely remove people when council weighs in. It's the same. If we want to be consistent as a council, I don't think this makes sense.
I'm sorry, Councilmember, I thought in your presentation you mentioned that was not for county employees, but for boards to which we appoint.
Yeah, the boards, exactly. It's different
So
than
this
a
is a different
director.
situation.
But I think this director is different, this position is different from the other director positions, but that's just my position.
Other questions, comments, concerns? Councilman Jones?
I was pondering more than having a question. It's along those same lines. It's not about one person in the office now, but the long-term picture. To go back to an elected position, the people will view the conduct and vote accordingly. May question how the people vote, Again, when you go back to the corruption scandal, nobody said anything. All that was going on, people were still getting endorsements from the parties. The plain dealer never said a word, and people kept getting elected. It was the FBI who came in and cleaned it up. They watched and they cleaned it up. If you go back, is everything fine for a generation and then you have issue after that? That's the question for me. I've always tried to tweak what we have, and for 15 years we've been tweaking and trying to build greater independence into the sheriff's office. And at this moment, are we still battling that? I think about that moment as the sheriff, as she spoke, she said, I meet with the executive every month. So it's in that room when two individuals who are standing either as equals, as two elected officials, or in our dynamic, one is a manager to his superior. Is that ideal for the sheriff and for the residents of this county? I don't know. Can we continue to tweak? Is there a way? If the people don't elect them, can it be council that has the power to fire, to let go for cause, and not like others? Is that an option? I'm still pondering. So that's not a question. That's just throwing my thoughts out
Mr. Chair, may I offer my thoughts in response? Thank you, Councilmember, for those two things. One, I appreciate where you are and what you're thinking about, and happy to continue to have more dialogue about whether there can be some sort of middle ground or discussion that we can have. We're always open-minded to that. Look forward to it. Secondly, as you all appeared to be, was impressed by the sheriff of Summit County. She was very eloquent and thoughtful. My takeaway is maybe that it is less about whether or not she is an elected or appointed official, and it's whether or not she was a good or not as good administrator. So it was not just about the sheriff, it was clearly about her understanding the administrative role of the position and her need to have partnership with her council and with her executive to work through her budget issues. I will be candid, we have sometimes had those challenges here, which is why we initially proposed to move some of the administrative functions from the sheriff's office directly under the executive, because we have seen situations where we have gotten findings from the internal auditor, where we have had, and things haven't changed, where we've seen solid to great recommendations from our Office of Innovation on how we can improve our processes as it relates to timekeeping and overtime keeping in the office, and they're not being done. And so to me, my reaction to her very persuasive presentation was more about the need to have an effective administrator as a sheriff. I just wanted to share that with you.
To that, let me ask that question. You just mentioned you brought back some of the administrative functions. I assume we're talking about the HR department that was
Well,
taken back?
We talked about HR, and as you all are very aware, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because we're in the middle of a lawsuit to clarify both HR and fiscal. But I can say to you, that's why we intended to take the action that we did, because we wanted to strengthen oversight, management, responsibility, and accountability.
You mentioned something didn't line up with the audits. That was ultimately the reason for taking back, that they were not in compliance with the audit?
To clarify, Councilmember, I was giving, for instance, examples, and I'm happy to have my team help put them together in writing as to reasons why collectively we were taking it back. We were recommending taking it back, why we desired to take it back so that we can make it work better. There wasn't any one thing.
How is that, as transparent as you can be, that dynamic in the office? Give us a window into that dialogue and interaction between the sheriff and the executive in that way. If there were, just to use the word, audit concerns, do you say to them that there was concerns, and then you're not getting a responsive sheriff to a legitimate concern about what is found in an audit? Or
Yeah, Councilmember, I guess I would respond in a couple ways. One, I would want to point out that even through all of this legal discussion and challenging in court of the roles and responsibilities, the executive and the sheriff has still been meeting, and the executive has still been talking to the sheriff and trying to hold him to account as it relates to some of the administrative functions of his office. So that still happens.
Councilman Sweeney, followed by Kelly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And through the chief, were we listening to the same presentation or the words that came out of that nice lady's mouth?
Yeah, we may have a different interpretation, Councilmember, but I heard the same presentation.
Yeah, my understanding, what I heard was she specifically said, my independent elected makes me a partner to have the discussions that bring the results that are evident in her county. And you're saying that she said that it's because she's just a good officer
No,
and sheriff. And
Councilmember,
that's
I'm-
what the results are.
Councilmember, I'm not saying she said that. I'm saying that was my takeaway, which was that she understands the administrative role of the position in addition to the law enforcement role of the position. And that, in my judgment, and my takeaway, is part of what has made her effective, the realization that she needed to partner with those other entities.
I'm just going to try to drive this home a little farther. The reason she said that she's effective is because she was independent, elected individual and was a true partner, not having to succumb to the county executive, but as a true partner to have discussions, and there's no leverage anywhere. So I just wanted to, we can have her come back and talk about it, but I specifically remember her saying that twice. So I'm just commenting after I heard your words, so thank you.
Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The part I can't get past here is when we said, could we walk in one day and find out the sheriff's been removed? So let's say somewhere down the road, Executive X, who has no law enforcement experience, doesn't like the way the sheriff's doing his job, and just says, okay, you're gone, I'm gonna find somebody that'll do the job I want it done, even though they don't have the experience to do that. That's what bothers me about this. Thank you.
If I may respond, Mr. Chair, Councilmember, I appreciate that. As a former police officer, I believe you understand the relationship between mayors and police chiefs, where you have a uniformed personnel reporting to a civilian elected official. We are asking for that same dynamic.
All right, I'd like to respond to that. What is the civilian that they're reporting to?
Police chief reporting to the mayor.
Police chiefs that I know have all come up through the ranks, are policemen, and they have tested their way to being a police chief. So they're not civilian, they're policemen.
Mr. Councilmember, I'm not making a comment about their qualifications or how they got to be police chiefs. I'm talking about the relationship between the chief law enforcement officer and the chief elected official of a municipality.
So, just so I understand this, so the police chief, who's a policeman still, and you're talking about he talks to who? The mayor?
He reports to the mayor in
safety-
most circumstances.
Whoever?
Or the service director in most circumstances, yes.
Okay. But
And that person, ultimately, in terms of the mayor, is held to account by the voters, as the county executive is.
agreed, but he can't just walk in and kick the police chief out. There's got to be a process. It has to be a process. It can't be walk in the door one day and say, I don't like the way you're doing this, so I'm letting you go.
Councilmember, I'm not sure if that's entirely accurate or not. I think there are circumstances where, circumstances in municipalities where which oftentimes mayors have the ability to hire or fire their police chiefs. May not be that way in every instance, but it is in many.
But there has to be a process. It's just not walk in the door and say, see it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Turner.
Thank you. Through the chair. I think what I heard Sheriff Feathery kind of say, well, let me say what I think she didn't say. She didn't come here saying, give the sheriff more power. I heard her say that she talks to her executive 2 or 3 times a week. She said we work together, we solve problems, we communicate constantly. I think I heard the sheriff say that public safety is a team sport. And neither one of those describe a power struggle. They describe the relationships. At least that's what I heard. So my question, hypothetical or real, is the relationship good here? Is there a problem? Perhaps not, but if it's true, then my next question is the relationship bad? And if it is bad, will changing the charter fix it? Maybe not. I think sheriffs and executives elected sheriffs and executives can fight. I think appointed sheriffs and executives can fight. Council members, we fight everybody. Prosecutors and executives can fight. Mayors and police chiefs. Anyway, relationships matter. Trust, funding, respect, and, Chief of Staff Janice, what I heard you describe were management failures. That's not the first time that I heard that. I heard the sheriff describe stewardship and partnership, and those aren't mutually exclusive. But I'm hearing you all say you want more authority. I kind of agree with the councilwoman when she says that the sheriff is not like a director like the other directors, because he's law enforcement and he's the top law enforcement. So I don't know who knows more about law enforcement than that position. So I guess my real question is, procedurally, how many meetings do you all have a day, a week? How often do you all meet to actually talk about what's going on over there? Because it seems like there's a communication gap somewhere.
Councilmember, I appreciate the question. I would answer it in two ways. First of all, I would refer back to the county executive's comments of his own 2 weeks ago, where he talked about his relationship with the sheriff and said it wasn't about him specifically, that they continue to work together, but rather this was about having the proper authority of someone who the executive appoints, confirmed by council, to set accountability and set expectations. To answer your second question, they meet on a regular basis, on a scheduled basis. I don't recall how often that is. It's probably once every couple weeks or month. That is not the only time they are in communication with each other. They are in communication with each other, or I am in communication, or my team is in communication with Sheriff Patel or his chief deputies on a regular basis. My first text this morning was at 5:15 from Deputy Chief Rivera about what was going on over at the Justice Center. So,
Right, because
so
it
that
was an
happens on a
emergency.
regular basis.
Given the nature of that work, is that enough? It seems like I heard what you said.
Well, Councilmember, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on what you think is enough.
Every day? Yeah, every day.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay. Thank you for that discussion. All right, let's move on. Madam Clerk, if you will read item 182 into the record.
Resolution number 2026-0182, providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to sections 4.01 and 5.06 of the county charter to delineate the powers and duties of the prosecuting attorney and director of law.
Thank you for reading that into the record. We're going to table the discussion on this particular item. There are some adjustments that are being considered, some new language, and feedback from parties and stakeholders. So we're going to revisit this particular item in the next couple of weeks.
Just quick comment?
Yes, sir.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to, applause a little too strong, the executive and the prosecutor for engaging and trying to figure this out. Because the one thing that really got me is the employees of the law department. And every day they come into work and they're stressing. They don't know what's happening. And I hope this gives the law department folks a comfort level that they do a great job and you don't need to be stressing. And our hope is when this is all said and done, you'll continue staying here and providing the absolute extraordinary legal advice and guidance and drawing up all these pieces of legislation. So I just wanted to state that to further emphasize how important this is and have the county executive and our prosecutor keep talking and get something figured out so we can all support something.
Yeah, thank you.
By the direction of our county or our state auditor. Because he told us to do something and we're doing it and hopefully it'll be unanimous out of here. So thank you for letting me have that mini diatribe.
I agree with that. I mean, our law department is integral to enabling us to avoid conflicts, and it's been a stable part of our government for 16 years. So I really hope this works itself out.
Mr. Chair, if I may as well add my agreement. Councilmember Sweeney, thank you for bringing that up. Councilmember Simon, we 1,000% agree. We have a top-notch law department right now with a top-notch law director. And I will also compliment very much the members of the Civil Division of the Prosecutor's Office. Notwithstanding this issue that we need to sort out about lines of authority, we work well with them on a regular basis, communicate on a regular basis, and intend to continue to do so. We have good lawyers.
Councilman Miller.
I would echo these sentiments and add that the action where the AG's opinion was solicited and brought forward creates an uncertainty and a very strong need for action, and this is a very timely matter. I think there's a stronger case that something should be done this year on this item than maybe any of the others. So I hope that we'll persevere. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, very good. I believe we also, before we move on, we have one more presentation or discussion. Will that fall under my purview or would that fall under yours, Council President? This is me, okay. Madam Clerk, if you will read the next item, 195, I believe.
Item for discussion, resolution number 2026-0195, providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 2, Section 2.03, Article 6, Section 6.04, and Article 12, Section 12.09 of the county charter, to provide that appointments by the county to certain boards and commissions be equally divided between the council and the county executive.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman Sweeney, take us away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my distinguished colleagues. Thank you for allowing me to present third charter amendment, which I believe are all very, very important. I think, did I say I'm Martin Sweeney? If not, I'm doing it for the YouTube video. And I do appreciate all the folks that are watching. I forgot to say that. And the folks that showed up here as interested individuals. Their eyes and communication to us is very vital. This is a very easy, or very short one, may not be easy. It's about the appointments. And right now, the charter says the executive appoints, we affirm, and after 60 days, if no action is taken, it becomes approved. And this, these are, I gotta see this. These are all the, we're talking about, one, we're talking about the Cuyahoga County Port Authority, the Adams Board, Cuyahoga Arts and Culture Board, the Board of the Library Trustees, Greater Cleveland Regional Transit, Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, Cuyahoga County, or Cuyahoga Community College Board of Trustees, and the Review Commission. Those are all substantial. Their definitions are, or their duties are listed, and the compensation are listed as well. We as council, people are going to think this is a power grab. Let's be straight up. But it's rebalancing the appointing authority. The current system that we have in place gives us no opportunity to recommend anybody for these boards. Let me say that again. No opportunity to recommend anybody. And I believe this council would take this responsibility and do their due diligence, select folks that will do an outstanding job and give a perspective from our council under the leadership of our president and the entire council debating, making recommendations, and it'd be through the council president that a decision would be made, explained to all of us, and I imagine it would be decided that person would be appointed at that spot. Very similarly to the convention board, we have, one of the slides have all the council direct appointments, and he makes the decision, he asks me, everybody gets notified, and then it moves forward. And the latest one was Deb Janik over to the Convention Center Bureau. And I can't think of a better individual that suits that need. And with that system, we had a say-so. With the current system with these boards, we don't. So it's going to be, my hope is, asking the people of Cuyahoga County a very simple question. Do you want to have the boards, these 6 boards, equally distributed between the county council and the administration, and that one that is the odd one will be recommended like it is now, considered by council, and the thing that I'm advocating for, after 60 days, it's disapproved. So that's where the rebalancing of appointment authority comes in. And the one that I just caught at the very end, because I was looking at the end of the charter when I was doing my little reading for this presentation, is the Charter Review Commission. There's 9 members. And we all know how important that is by our discussions today. I didn't have the privilege of serving on either one of the 2 prior ones, but we have absolutely 0 opportunity to recommend anybody for that important responsibilities that occurs every 10 years. So plain and simple, you can ask me any questions, and I thank you for listening.
Questions or comments from my colleagues? Councilwoman Simon.
I like part of this. I like the Charter Review Commission, having council be able to appoint. I served on Charter Review in South Euclid. It was comprised of members of the community, and it was a more collective group. It wasn't just an appointment from the mayor. And I think the charter impacts everybody, especially 11-member council and the executive. And I think the communities we represent should have some representation through us. And I don't think it's a bad thing to have a say in those appointments. The other boards and commissions, I'm not sure yet. I'm not a no on those. I think we might have some say on there, or should. And with regard to the 60 days, does it lapse? Can they come back? So with an appointment of the same person, those are questions I would have.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you for your comments, as always. It always stimulates my thought process.
Councilman Jones.
Well, there are many more boards, but these seem to be the more high profile, if that's the way. Are these all paid boards, or are these unpaid?
We have 3 boards. The Port Authority is $18,000 a year with PERS. The Greater Cleveland Regional, the RTA, $4,800 annually, I believe, with PERS. And the Sewer District is $400 per meeting, and I imagine with the PERS as well. I will get the clarification on the PERS. I forgot to ask the wonderful folks that have to put up with me putting this together to get that clarified. But I need to give everyone the clearest picture as possible with the accurate information. I apologize for not having that PIRS question answered here.
So these are not all paid boards, but
That's
these are
it.
all the ones that are the paid boards. All right. Well, okay. How many appointments did we have? I should know the answer to that.
There's 14 appointments for the non-civil serv, or non-charter review commission, and there's 4 that we'd be gaining 14 from the non-charter review, and the charter review is 4. The reason I separate it, it's every 3 to 5 years that we would be dealing with appointing 14 people. So the extra work that's going to be placed on our council staff is minimal, minuscule for the absolute opportunity to select these folks. But the 4 I keep separated because it's every 10 years. So it's, there's a little bit of work here, not much work here because it's every 10 years. So it's 18, but I wanted to split it up to the non-charter review and charter review.
So splitting these in half, you said it would be, council would be appointing
14.
14.
Yeah.
14 appointments.
Out of all the
all.
hundreds, but these are for the specific boards that have the biggest impact on the citizens of Cuyahoga County.
And currently, we make no appointments to any of these boards.
None. We confirm them, but we have no
confirm
opportunity to recommend.
Recommend, right. And that is actually
Or
work, though.
select.
That is work, in terms of even at, of making sure you have the sufficient network and depth to identify capable individuals.
I think we can handle
It's a
it, though.
challenge just in the level that we've had so far. And I'm just saying from experience, having to identify individuals for the boards that we do have, because again, there are many other boards, and we do have to make appointments, and it's work. You go through your mental Rolodex or your actual phone, whatever you do, however you have to decide who is the best candidate for these positions. And now even at these paid positions, specifically paid ones, you want individuals who are capable of work. Every board is different. Some are more ceremonial. Some need you to roll up the sleeves and do work. And again, you're talking about having that expertise and that breadth of connections. All of those things are factors in it as well. So
And I
it's
can't thank you,
intriguing,
yeah.
but yeah.
I just want to thank you for your perspective there,
Yeah.
because being the council president, you went through a lot, and I didn't think about that right now, and I appreciate you sharing that perspective with me. And you might have a question about why the Metro board's not on here or this other board. Some are driven by state, and we have no control over the appointment process, like Cleveland State or Metro. These are the ones that we have the responsibility as the county to appoint.
Other questions or comments?
I really do appreciate you guys putting up with me today, and I think I tried to add some value for once, and I can't thank the Michael and Laura, what they did for me. And Mr. President, can you give them time off on Monday a little bit early next week? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Sweeney. Okay, 3 hours and 50 minutes. That's not too bad, right? I can tell my colleagues, everybody's really riveted and excited. So at this point in the meeting, I'm going to turn the gavel back over to Council President, and he's going to go ahead and get us finished up. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much, and I would like to commend Councilman Schlepper for an excellent handling of that long session, and also to commend all the presenters for the amount of thought and preparation that they put into a very good discussion today on the charter amendments. Is there any miscellaneous business? Hearing none. The committee of the whole stands adjourned, and the regular council meeting will begin at precisely 10 minutes past the hour.